remembered are the ones that are logically consistent that make sense long term.
I think that approach is absolutely how it should be done with arguments that are more reasonable, right? Like a left versus right argument. That's a very reasonable argument. But when it's flat Earth, this should not be even close to being entertained. And the people who follow flat Earth aren't following it for logical reasons.
Why did
I'm okay if you watch
I already answered you.
No, why did you have to debate it scientifically? And everything you're saying now is like you should not debate this scientifically.
Well,
like what?
Well,
I did both. I talked about the science and the emotion. I'm just talking about why I included
Why did you
the
show
emotional
up
aspect.
on a scientific platform to debate something you don't think should be
scientific platform? This is a debate platform.
Oh, yeah, a debate
all
platform.
debates are scientific.
So you showed up on a debate platform to just slam the other guy emotionally?
So if you watched my debate, most of my argument was about science and facts and reason.
Yeah.
I'm defending I'm defending the last 2 minutes of my opening where I tried to make an appeal to emotion, which is.
But you don't think that you should platform people like Whitsitt on anything but a way to smear them and drag them emotionally? Like that's the real goal. You just said.
I don't think Whitsitt should have a platform, but I'm not in charge of modern day debate.
You showed up and you debated him.
Yeah, because I'm not in charge. Because he's going to show up and debate someone else if I'm not there. So I'd rather take advantage of the
weirdest thing I've ever heard.
I think we've gone through the table.
Anti-capitalists do in America. So.
That is like the most.
I think we've gone through the table. I'd like to change the prompt. And just really quick though, I do have something I want to say. Please like, share, subscribe to the show. I hope you all like it. Leave comments below. But anyways, no, I did want to say about something you did say. I do that sometimes, what you're talking about, but usually it's about racism and other stuff. And if you've seen some of my debates, like I get a little triggered on some topics, but I don't see this as dangerous a topic. I do understand it is a gateway though, but
no, it's not a gateway. That's BS.
Okay, you can disagree. That's fine. But I'd like to go to the next show prompt. What do you think of Austin's argument and debate tactic for the flat Earth? And we'll get Justin a chance to talk. He didn't even get to answer the last one, but he was there for the whole show.
I would be giving the political answer anyways. I'm a modern day debater, moderator in this position between these two debaters. But what I will say is, actually, I think I'm the one that planted the seed of David versus Goliath, the idea of who is William. But I can promise you, we all know who William is now. So don't worry about that. Austin is always so much fun to have. So I will shorten my statement a little bit here by just saying on the topic of like, should it even be platformed? Look, I tell everyone behind the scenes that matters now, the minute we're not having fun doing this anymore, let's just stop. Okay. Because we're just wasting our time. And I think when it comes to debates in general and flat earth debates, there's a little element of fun. We're all there to watch because we want to see who's going to tee up a ball and who's going to hit it out of the park and who's going to come up with an argument we've never heard before. So, Anathema makes the point of like, he's seen so many Whitsitt debates. There's not a whole lot of new under the sun, but that's okay. Why is there not a whole lot new under the sun? Because he's experienced at this and he's tough. He's tough. I don't care if you like him or you don't like him. Whitsitt is tough. And that's why all of us here respect him.
Well,
in some way, shape, or form.
Darth Dawkins is tough.
Sure. But it doesn't matter. If we're talking debate skills, he's an excellent metric to measure yourself. And William, you did a great job. Whitsitt did a great job. It's without question in the top 2 best debates of 2024 on modern day debate. So there's no arguing that. I think it sets a bar for the debates that we're going to have over there this year.
I agree with that last sentiment. It sets a bar. But let's change it up a little bit for you there, William, just so like what did you like about Austin's performance and his tactics?
Man, I wish I could argue my gibberish as much as he can. If I could, I would, because he can spit. He can spit fast bars really quick, and I'm not that fast. He's able to make a solid, credible sounding statement and have most people ignore it and just say it sounded credible. I'm not even going to challenge him on it. And it works, you know, whether you want to call it fallacious or not, it works to convince the audience, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make. Is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the argument is fallacious or not. What matters is if it's convincing and if it convinces the audience. And at the end of the day, I don't care if I have to use some fallacies to convince his audience to go against him, I'll do it, because that's how much I believe in the globe theory.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, that's what I think the purpose of a debate is. The purpose of a debate is not to find truth. The purpose of a debate is to spread an idea that you think is true.
I think to let the audience decide, like have a good faith back and forth.
I am letting the audience decide.
By
That's
using,
exactly what I'm doing.
By using fallacies? Well, that's just deceit. Like, I don't like by tricking them. Like letting the audience decide by tricking them.
They're not going to listen to logic, right? I know they're not going to listen to logic. That's not going to win them over. It won't happen.
It absolutely will.
They're not logical people.
Let me in for a sec just to ask an actual honest question, though.
Yes.
Hold on, Sunflower. Isn't in a debate, in any debate, if you can present a fallacy and get away with it, is that not just like a sneaky maneuver anyways? Like, is it not a valid use in a debate?
Exactly.
So what it depends on what you mean by valid, because the purpose of a debate, in my opinion, it's up to opinion. The purpose of the debate, in my opinion, is to convince the audience you're right. Okay, the way you do that is up to you. If you want to use sound logic and reasoning, that's probably what you should do if your audience is a bunch of scientists. But if it's a bunch of conspiratorial flat earthers, then you need to appeal to whatever they are going to be, their minds are going to be changed by. And
So
if it's emotion and passion,
can I say something here?
it's to convince them.
This sucks. This sucks, man. This is just BS, man.
Can I say something here?
Well, Dr. J was next, but if it's related to what William was said, go ahead, Leo.
Yeah. So now I don't know if this is what actually occurs in like a formal debate at like a university or something, but for me, if I was, say, a judge in a debate and person A committed a fallacy, an informal fallacy, let's say, but person B never called them out on it, I would take a point against person B. You should know your fallacies and you should call out your opponent when they commit them. So I would take that as a point away from person B because they didn't call out the fallacy. You should know when a fallacy is committed, and the first thing you should do is call it out and then proceed with your response.
That's insane. That's pathological. I mean, that's outright insane. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
well, I mean, I've actually taken courses in argumentation and effective reasoning, and I'm sure most of the people
we all know you have. You have no college degree.
I'm sure that most of the people that instructed those courses I'm sure that most of the people that instructed those courses are probably going to agree with me over you.
Oh, I'm sure they are, Leo.
I know. Look, it's not even a debate. I know more about formal debate than you.
Pat yourself on the back with that. But at very best, like, don't take a point against either. That's fine. But to take a point against the person that doesn't call out, it's like the best trickster wins. Just if you can lie your way through a debate, you are the golden champion. Like, well, really?
There's a devil.
I never said that.
Wait, Sunflower.
Penalizing the opposition for not pointing it out.
You do devil's advocates all the time.
I was about to say, where's the devil advocate in you, Sunflower?
Devil's advocate is not fallacies. Those are not synonyms.
You can't have the devil advocate for fallacies.
They're not synonyms.
You know, fallacy doesn't mean lying. A fallacy is it's an informal fallacy. It means it doesn't necessarily follow. Like your argument doesn't necessarily follow.
Right.
A formal fallacy would be something. There's some type of contradiction where your conclusion is
formal
false.
Fallacies are errors in the form of an argument, and an informal fallacy is a fallacy in the presentation of an argument, but not necessarily in its form.
Yeah, you would never. So you wouldn't deduct a point for either. You wouldn't give a point or deduct.
No, if it was either fallacy, whether formal or informal, if it was committed by a person in a debate, and that person's opponent failed to call them out on that fallacy, that's a point against them. In a formal debate, you should know when a fallacy is being committed, and you should call it out. And not doing so is a point against you. That's
be-
what good debating is.
No,
knowing
it's just-
fallacies and knowing when to call them
It's
out.
not good
Nobody
debating.
that knows
No.
anything about debate is going to deny that point.
But this is made up. You're making it up off the top of your head. Like.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
So if
let's
a
move
person
on.
Only presents
Dr.
fallacies. and the
Dr.
other
J,
person
hold on,
presents
Sunflower.
Hold on.
Sunflower. Look, we absolutely love
we
you.
got
But
back
can we
and
just
forth.
go to 9
Yeah.
for a sec so we can go to the next guy? We're gonna get to you, and you're gonna get to do all of the stuff we love.
Yeah, it's a Dr. J. What did you think of Austin's argumentative debate tactic? Thank you, William.
I usually don't like Witsit's arguments because he's so good at it, and I often think he's wrong, and he frustrates me that he's really good at sort of talking and so on and so forth, and often wins the debates. I think he did a good job again today. I thought this was the most trouble I'd ever seen him have, and for me, the key was that what I talked about as far as really making him explain himself, and I think you got tired on that a little bit. Like he wears you out. That's a really great skill he has. He just wears you out. My brother is also really good at this. And can you keep staying with him? Can you keep staying with him? Because I thought his arguments really, as a guy who apparently does this full time, or this is the main thing he does, he knows what he's going to say, right? He's on it. He is talking. He is, he has done this 1,000 times, and he is smooth. So I think he did a good job. I think he may have underestimated you. I wish he could have prepared a little bit more, had a stronger opening argument. But he certainly knows his stuff, right? And I laud him for that.
Thank you, Dr. J.
Thank you.
Max, we'll have you go next. What did you think about Austin's? Witsit, his name's Austin. Witsit gets it, Austin. People didn't know.
I kind of like I like watching him, but I don't like him. I mean, not personally. He kind of seems like a regular person, but I don't know, the whole persona of him doesn't sit right with me. But that being said, I've seen him like absolutely crush people, and it's weird to see when that happens. But I've been. I mean, I disagree with Shane. His arguments have evolved and have changed, at least over the last, I don't know, year, 6 months. So I kind of picked up on that. The whole electricity thing, that's new. I haven't heard him say that yet. I don't follow him anywhere but MDD, really. But that's something I haven't heard before. And it's wrong, but it's interesting. At least it makes you go out and seek a new answer of why you think that's wrong. And there's some value in that. So I kind of appreciate a bit the new material. He he brought up my favorite, the azimuthal grid of vision, something he just invented. And
he didn't invent it, but yeah.
When you look up azimuthal grid of vision, that one thing pops up, and it only pops up because he mentions Witsit in it.
Oh yeah. Oh really?
I think he might have been.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's a real jargon.
It was mentioned
normal science
during the debate. Witsit tell Google this, and I googled it, and there's nothing there. It's like there's nothing here to back any of your positions up, dude. This is crazy. But I did like that you got him under control. And at a moment around the half part, it kind of started flowing better, because I think he got like the idea of like, okay, yeah, this is not one of my regular debates. So you both kind of settled in, and the conversation flowed a bit better, which was pretty nice. And then in the questions, there were a bunch of them. I guess we can talk about that later, but yeah, it was a good debate. I enjoy watching Witsit, even though he's wrong. I'm always hoping for these new things that he might come up with. They're interesting to me.
He's very, very well read, I think. Like,
I personally believe Witsit will purposefully just lie about things. Like I just saw a debate where he claimed an image was from Harvard, and I found the image, and it happened to be found on Wikipedia, and it had zero connection to Harvard. I believe he has bad intent behind his debating tactic, and that's why I feel very passionate about making the most convincing argument against him, even if it has emotion involved.
Well, speaking about convincing arguments against Witsit, I think you weren't the first person to actually beat Witsit in a debate. I think the first person I've personally seen was the next person who's going to talk, which is Leo Filius. He debated Witsit at DebateCon 4. Everybody should go check that out. And I think, honestly, Witsit was more on his back foot at that debate than he was even with your own debate. I just sort of forgot about it. But go ahead, Leo. What did you think about Austin's debate performance tonight? You there, Leo?
Well, I would. It's the same as it always is. Him spewing a bunch of words that make no sense when you put them together. In fact, I think it was you, Ozzy, and it might have been in one of the an after show or a pre-show that we had a couple days ago that said it's like when Leonard Mladenov confronted Deepak, who's a theoretical physicist, confronted Deepak and said, I know the words you're using, but I don't know what they mean when you use them the way that you use them. And that perfectly describes Witsit. He was talking about, I don't even know, some sort of electric something vertical. Like that when I hear people say that, what it tells me is they don't even know what the fuck the electromagnetic field even is. It exists everywhere.
Absolutely.
That's what a field is. And then he said something about divergence. I don't know if he meant divergence as it exists in electromagnetism as a mathematical result that you get from doing something fancy with derivatives of your functions or something like that, or if he meant something else. But if he meant what it means in math, I know for a fact he couldn't define that word. And that's one of the things, because Witsit is good. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's very rhetorically skilled. He knows kind of like what to say and how to say it to confuse people into thinking, well, what he said had big words and was confusing, so I guess he's probably right. A good way to get through that with anyone is to ask them, so you used the phrase or you used the term, this, that, and the other. Can you explain to me what you mean by that? I don't think I'm following you. And watch them crumble as they are incapable of explaining the gibberish, the gibberating that they're engaged in. So... yeah, I see a lot of comments from his fanboys talking about how he destroyed me. They're free to click the link. We have a space open. You can come in, and I'm sure Ozian will grant you about 5 minutes to explain exactly how I got destroyed. Because
yes, I would. We just did a poll. And half of the people watching the show say they're flat earthers, but none of them are clicking the link.
Why do you think?
Come on stage. You don't have to debate. You can tell Leo how he's wrong. You can tell William how he's wrong. You tell me how I'm wrong. People tell me I'm wrong all the time. I got slaughtered by John Zerka, apparently. Whatever. That's a different topic.
Yeah. We're arguing William versus Witsit, not flat Earth versus globe at the moment. Yeah. So if you're Team Witsit, never mind Team Flat. If you're Team Witsit, come on and be like, nope, you're wrong, and that's all we want to do here.
I debate Will. What the fuck?
But regardless, the fact that they're here and they're contributing and they're in the chat and stuff. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming. We still love that. Like,
now you're making me feel bad.
Yeah. I do want to say something to some of my haters out there. God, I love seeing them in the side chat. It's what keeps me fucking going. It's what fuels me to get up and piss in the middle of the night. Anyway, it's that this is not actually coming from me. To me, it was just kind of like an average debate. Guy was a little, wacky with the stuff that he said. But anyway, apparently there was a lot of damage control being done after my first debate, which was one-on-one with Witsit. I had a lot of people that follow like the Flat Earth Discord servers that said my name is getting used and abused by a lot of people. So to me, that tells me I won. Like, you don't respond that way if your boy won. You respond that way when your boy loses.
Did you have dozens of memes made about you and a lot of
Well, no, I'm not that big.
I did. I'm not that big.
You're bigger than I am. And I don't mean
I am bigger than you are. We know in all dimensions, but with that, me being bigger than you. You're big brained. We'll go to Issa next. What did you think about Austin's performance tonight, Issa?
When I first saw Whitsitt, I was like, this guy is extremely impressive. He is a master rhetorician. He could be a lawyer. He has the skill set to do that, or even like a college professor. I've taken like a billion college classes, so like, you have the lecture professor. He could do it. It would just be there, and he could lecture and just tell you about this concept and that concept and this concept, and you would just be blown out. You know, he sounds like a PhD professor in what he's talking about. I had to go back in the debate and look up all these terms because these are not terms that I know personally. This is not exactly my field. I have some experience in the sciences, but not physics per se. I do anatomy, physiology. I'm doing like a nursing program. So you have a different kind of program within natural sciences. So it's different.
He does
so
have a PhD. It's a shit PhD. I said, you're right. He does have a PhD. It's a shit PhD. And by PhD, I mean shit piled higher and deeper.
Oh, I thought you talked about Issa's theology.
No. I'm talking about Whitsitt. He does have a PhD. Shit piled higher and deeper.
I have a PhD. I bought it for $20 from University of Leipzig.
You're funny.
I'm a metaphysician. Thank you.
People told me I should do that before my debate with Kent Hovind, so he has to call me doctor.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But I do agree that Witz is a great rhetorician. Thank you. And I met Witz at DebateCon. He seemed like a nice guy. He seemed to be a little shy-ish, but it may be the crowd he was surrounded by.
There's no flat earthers there. There's nobody he feels comfortable, being comfortable around.
I feel like Whitsitt is like a rock star. That's kind of what I feel too. He has this rock star type of attitude, like persona.
Arrogant.
He's the rock star of the flat earthers, and it's pretty cool. Like in his sense, I'm like, wow. He's like, I'm here to do a performance and this type of thing. The one thing that I felt he could have worked on in this was, we had talked about this in other
keep that up
conversations. Is the having like a presentation to explain all the concepts, like William did that, which I think is helpful because that helps us follow it through the debate. Because that's a tactic, like the tactic we talked about this, it can be a very powerful or it can have a counter effect, which is where you use your opening statement to counter the first speaker. It can allow you to engage and kind of deconstruct their points, but it also loses the time for you to establish what your arguments are. So I think it was a gamble to take that position. And I would have taken the position to establish all the points because people may not know all these points. And it was a lot of stuff. There was so many things that were there. And I was like, okay, I wish some of this was established. That would have helped me follow it more.
All right. What about you, Yay Dan? What do you think about Austin's performance tonight?
I mean, I think it was pretty typical. I think he got flustered. I don't think he expected William to do as well as he did, and I don't think he expected William to sort of dismiss his arguments. I also don't think he expected William to accept some of his things. Like, I think he's used to talking to people who aren't like up to speed on things and want to like say, oh, Newtonian gravity is true or like whatever, and argue those dumb things with him, and are just not like saying the regular things, like things can be like false but useful, the things that I really appreciated in William's arguments. I do think that like what Dr. J said, he kind of has a script which he sticks to, and he is very well rehearsed at it. Like, it's kind of his identity and his livelihood. So I think it's almost a little unfair. And he does really well at it, and I will give him props for that. But I do think that when you kind of press at it, it is kind of a facade. So I liked that William pushed at it a little bit and kept digging, and I think it set him off his game a little bit. I actually don't like his debate tactics at all. I think they're very used car salesman style tactics. I do think they work. I think they work well at like sort of brainwashing people. And I think they're good for gathering up a bunch of people who don't really understand the topic they're being presented with and don't have a lot of time to understand the topic. And I think that's why he talks very fast and doesn't want people to slow him down and ask him to explain in simple terms the words he's using. And I think people make a big mistake when they say things like word salad and stuff to him, because then he can turn around and say they're attacking him or whatever, ad homing him. He's very good at that. And I think it was great that that didn't happen in this debate. Instead, we just kept going to, oh no, slow down and explain it to me simply. Like, what do those words mean? You don't need to use those words. Like, just explain what you mean to me. And obviously he can't, because the words have no real meaning. They're not important to what he was trying to describe. And what he was trying to describe was nonsense. So I think that really that's really it when I watch his sort of debate tactics. And I don't really think he has great arguments, to be honest. I think he just has well-rehearsed arguments, and I think he's very charismatic, and I think those are all pluses. He's very charismatic. I think he's very well rehearsed. I think he didn't rehearse today. I think he thought it was going to be a pushover because it's a new person, and most of the times when it's a new person on modern day debate, even if they're very smart or they have a lot of accolades, they're not used to talking to someone like Whitsitt because they think they're going to be smart, and so he just kind of steamrolls them. But that's not what happened today. So I was like, it was really, really interesting to watch for me. And from the debate side, especially going to the fallacies thing, I really dislike his misuse of fallacies. In fact, that really sticks to me. Like
when did he do that?
He does it all the time. Like
name one time.
I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't write them down.
You're talking about Whitsitt's use of fallacies?
Debate. I can give you specific instances of where he did it in my debate.
Hold on. Well, let's not get derailed here because we got a new panelist and I want to give them equal time.
Where'd he
go?
Oh, sorry. I'll stop. Like I didn't mean to. Like I wasn't gonna give a whole.
You there,
on,
Toby
like,
Walker?
Looks like he had a connection issue. Oh no!
I was like, okay, there he is. Welcome to the stage. Yeah, I don't think I.
Can we drop this banner at the bottom just real quick so I can see his name?
Toby
Walker. Okay.
I had to mute you at first if you were trying to check it because you had a lot of feedback. So, but you're unmuted now, Toby. But
gotcha.
So yeah, what brings you? Did you watch the debate?
Yeah. Me and some friends watched it together actually on a voice chat.
Oh, awesome. So we were talking about Witz's debate, but if you wanted like talk about it, spend a few minutes overall, what do you think both sides their performance was? Feel free. Are you a flat earther or a glober or?
Yeah, I'm a flat earther. William, I'll say, I thought your opening was one of the better openings I've seen. I'll definitely grant you that. And I would say, that was, probably one of the better flat earth debates I've seen in a while. Although, I was like really, I was kind of disappointed that you guys spent so much time like talking about that one very particular Bislin model when Austin wasn't really trying to defend that model particularly. He was using it as a list of examples of ways that the Southern Star Trails could work, not trying to say that that's, precisely how they do work, because as he said, our whole position is that there's not actually, we're not the ones making assertion about what's where and how far it is. We're saying that your assertions are not accurate.
I appreciate that.
But anyway, sorry. Yeah, just to finish it all, because I guess I kind of diverted into that. But yeah, William, it was sadly one of the better ones I've seen in a while. I will also say though, it's crazy because my interpretation of the debate, like listening to you guys here, I would love to hear some substance about what he said that was inaccurate, what was word salad, or what was wrong or whatever. Because from my point of view, I understood what he said perfectly fine. I understand he does talk fast sometimes, but especially in a debate format, you don't really have you don't have infinite time to talk, so you kind of do have to move fast with your getting your points out.
So I believe he intentionally.
He's gone again.
Defend myself.
Oh no.
Camera problems, I think.
Oh, you're back. Are you there, Toby?
Can you hear me? I'm having camera problems, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I mean, you don't have to respond, William. I could respond. So I personally understood what Whitsitt was talking about, but I've talked to Whitsitt several times. I just don't accept his argument. It's more like skepticism, and skepticism isn't a positive claim. He's just saying I'm skeptical of those views. And I think, like, for me personally, the evidence for the Earth being a globe is just overwhelming, and I would never change my opinion on that. So I wouldn't say. I always say Whitsitt is an excellent debater. I just don't agree with his view.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Whitsitt is a fantastic debater because I believe the purpose of debate is to create convincing arguments, and Whitsitt does that without a doubt. He uses fallacies to do it, but he makes convincing arguments, and he convinces his audience he is correct. So he's a fantastic debater, and I just tried to the word salad. I know he loves to set people up for the word salad trap. That I saw him trap somebody in one of his debates, so I try to avoid the word salad. But I do absolutely believe he intentionally talks extremely quickly and use very high-level jargon that he knows most people watching this are not going to understand on the face of it, to intentionally make people brush it off and kind of ignore it and kind of say, like, that sounded credible, so I guess I'll just believe it. And that's why I tried to slow him down as much as possible. And whenever I heard something that I could tell was pretty much just major bogus, I tried.
But do you acknowledge though that when you stopped him on centripetal convergence, centrifugal divergence, that was actually totally sensible what he was saying?
I would say.
So what does it mean? Explain what those terms are.
There's one word. There's one word.
It's magnetokinetic energy, and that's how magnets work.
What is magnetokinetic energy?
You just say a torus field. You don't say it like that. Who says it like that?
Toby, I would say
Steinmetz.
I would say
no.
The intention behind those words. I would say the intention behind words like that, even if they were true, the level that he's trying to speak from is intentionally deceptive, because he knows it's far above most people's heads. So even if it's true, which I don't think it was, I think it was just throwing it in for no reason to confuse people even further. But even if it was true, it doesn't even mean
totally relevant to the conversation. And you tried to act like he was trying to confuse the audience. It's just that it turns out physics is not just little particles. It's not so simple as a bunch of little orbits. There's actually an ether, and there's actually forces at play.
No, there's not.
There's actually there's actually you can't just induce a charge potential across a field of space time. You actually need a medium.
Toby, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, it's called the electromagnetic field.
Toby, I absolutely agree. Centripetal divergence and convergence are real concepts. I'm saying that in that specific situation, it was unnecessary and it was intentionally.
No, when you're talking about magnetokinetic pressure, you actually it makes perfect sense to talk about the relevance of
they're definitely
whether or not
real things.
You like its verbiage. It's just a weird thing to get hung up on. That particularly, we've already clearly clarified that's not word salad. So do you guys have like an example of when he's actually said something that was intentionally to mislead his audience?
Really quick before we answer that question, I think Justin, you needed to go take care of your poor puppy, right? Or
yeah, I've got a sick injured dog here. I need to get away. I've just been through like a 3-hour debate, and this has been great. I could stay here all night, but she needs her meds and stuff, and she's got like 8 stitches. So I just wanted to say, everyone, thanks so much for coming out. Thanks for watching. I'm leaving. This is going to carry on. I saw Norcal Cracks come on. So I think this is about to get real cool, real awesome. I'll be watching. All right. But everyone have a good night. Be respectful. Okay.
Justin, I just want to say before you go, you've been the best moderator I have ever had.
I totally agree with you.
That was good moderation.
Oh, I do my best. I mean, modern day debate.
Best moderation I've ever
moderation on the minimum. We just want to make sure people don't start insulting each other or elbow drops. So that's all I try to do. And yeah, if you guys could do me a favor, hit likes, hit subscribe, and fill out the little survey for us so we can have a fun little Family Feud night. And there's questions in there about Witsit.
Yo, so, I actually have to take care of my dog really quick as well, but I'll be back in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
I actually have to go use the restroom for 5 minutes.
Oh, you should have stuck with the dog trend.
Well, I'm gonna go get the dog.
Well, I want to okay, take care, guys.
Have a good night.
Talk to you later, Justin.
Night, Justin.
All right. I want to welcome NorCal Cracks on stage. If you want to introduce yourself. And what happened to Shane? Did he leave?
Me? I'm right here.
Oh, okay. But did we lose somebody? We lost somebody.
William went to the bathroom. Justin had to go do the dog thing, and somebody else had to go take care of their dog.
We lost the Toby.
He had to go do dog stuff too.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I lost track. Welcome to the stage, NorCal Cracks. Are you here to tell us how stupid we are? Or are you here to support the globe? Just kidding.
No. I'm in the middle of all this awesome debate, man. I've been watching Witsit for a while, and I've got my questions, my concerns, and come from standard upbringing, globe model, and he's challenged a lot of my beliefs and understanding, and I just thought I'd jump in here, and all you guys seem to be on one side. I just thought I'd see where the crowd's at, and I mean the thing I seem to struggle with, being a sailor, a pilot, is the calculations that they use, the 8 inches a mile squared for the curve of the earth, and why do we see farther than that? Some atmospheric things going on maybe, but like why can I see the Santa Rosa Islands from Santa Barbara, where I sail from, with my own eyes, and then you've seen all the videos with the zoom cameras and all that kind of stuff. Why do we see farther than? No, I'm not going to hate it because I'm open to it. So no, that's why I'm asking it. Like why do we see farther than what the math shows for the curve of the Earth?
The answer is refraction.
Yeah.
And I know that's not going to be a satisfying answer.
No,
but
I don't.
And 8 inches per mile. 8 inches per mile squared is for close in. Also, it creates a parabola. It doesn't create a circle. So if you want to actually use the formula, you have to use one that includes pi in the calculations. So because it's a circle. Anyways, just to point out that you can find globe earth calculators. It's close. It depends on how far away the object is.
Yeah.
But you also have to take into account your height, the observer height, and the height of the object you're actually seeing. And then, like William said, you do have a refraction. So I'd have to look at each claim. Famously, Eric DeBay, if you're familiar with him, I'm sure you are.
Sure.
Sure. Oh, Run Boston Bear. I know Run Boston Bear. I'm going to have to kick you, Gay Dan. Sorry. Run Boston Bear, I'm pretty sure he's a flat earther too.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Anyway, so Eric debates like 200 proofs for the flat earth. There's 4 images in there. He's talking about the distance to I think it's the Cyprus Islands or whatever. He's saying it's 3 or 4 different islands. It's not. It's one island with different peaks on the island. And he's the camera, the guy that actually took the picture, was reached out to because he took the picture that somebody else took, or he used that picture, and it was at like 1,000-foot elevation. So it's all explained by the globe model. We would expect to see those peaks of the mountains on that island from that elevation. But Eric Dubé uses it as proof. Now, you can say, well, he's just wrong on those, right? But it seems like the globe model, we have answers for like all these things. You could reject them, but it just at some point it's sort of
that's the problem. That's the problem with the flat Earth theory. Is there's so much of it is BS. It's just things applications not applied correctly. It's what did I see? Something I saw today, and I was like, "Come on, guys! Like this is not even a real argument. What are we talking about here?" I can't remember what it was, but
I would want to chime in and say that I also really dislike any arguments that have to do with looking at the horizon, at like the very specific part of the horizon very closely and deeply, because refraction is going to make a plethora of not always predictable things happen at that very small part of the sky because of refraction. So you're going to see things that shouldn't be there. Sometimes you're going to see things that you shouldn't be able to see otherwise. And it's not always going to match up every single time because it's dependent on the weather and the temperature conditions. So you can sometimes see some things and sometimes see other things, but it's
right. I'm a ham radio operator, and VHF propagation depends solely basically on the weather. So I can transmit from my place in Northern California all the way down to the middle of the state, 400 miles from me, if the weather conduces VHF propagation down to that part of the state. Where, go ahead.
I got my radio telephone operator license with radar endorsement. I was in the Navy too.
Okay.
Just sharing.
Yeah, and so there's some good arguments, about globe Earth for that. Where's I going with that?
About RF propagation, you mean, or?
Well, I mean that's just a whole nother argument. I mean, HF, whether it's VHF or HF. I mean, VHF is local here, and it's like tunneling with weather phenomena, and then you got HF that bounces off the ionosphere, which they say doesn't happen, and line of sight, Marconi, and all that stuff couldn't have happened because the Earth would be in the way. Well, no, that's not the case. Like, it does bounce, it does refract. I mean, I can actually send a signal all the way back to myself if I just send it to the east and wait to listen to it. It'll come back to me. So that's a problem. But
and then you got long wave too. Long wave will go over mountain peaks because of the curve and the way the waveform is. It depends on the distance and stuff. But long wave propagation can go pretty far distances along the surface of the
That's
Earth.
what I'm talking about. HF and HF is long wave. And long wave you can basically transmit back to yourself. How can you do that on a flat Earth?
Yeah, and that's why I don't really always want to talk about. I kind of tried to avoid conversations about optics and radio frequency because these concepts are extremely unintuitive, right? So when you start describing how they work,
it's
easy.
happens to all be the illusion that
the
opposite of what it really is.
Yeah,
what we experience.
Yeah, it's extremely unintuitive. So all these arguments you make are going to sound silly because they're like, why would that happen like that? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, yes, and yet it happens.
I'd like to bring Run Boston Bear. I've talked to you a few times, I believe, on Modern Day Debate Discord. Welcome to the pretty
Thanks
sure.
so much. Yeah, I actually was on your channel here when you first started it up not too long ago. I was like the only flatty that came on, and y'all were like, thanks for coming. Y'all were fairly nice.
I appreciate you being here. I really want, this is not an echo chamber. It's not a debate either, even though debate's going to happen. We're supposed to be doing a debate review. But I'd love to hear your feedback, Run Boston Bear, about what you thought about. Did you watch the debate tonight? What you thought about Williams' performance, Austin's performance? Any recommendations for either of them?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I think it was an enjoyable debate to watch. There was 1,000 people sustained the whole time.
1,100.
Yeah, 1,100. Yeah, and there was people going back and forth. It looked like the vote for is it flat or is it round was pretty close to 50%.
53.
53. Now a minute. I think William did a good job. You're well spoken. I think that you guys started out like a little bit at each other's throat, but by the end of it, you're giving each other time to speak y'all's part. And I mean, I think by the end, y'all were cool with each other, even though y'all have differing views on what the world is. Now, I have a question for each of you as individuals. If just for a second, if you valued truth over anything, it could be that you're actually for Austin and what he's saying if he has the truth. I think the reason why you have such a visceral reaction to him is because he's speaking against what you believe reality to be, and that being the globe, which I think is fictitious. So you have to hate Austin. But when I hear him, he's well studied, well versed. He does talk fast. But if people went back through the debate and studied it out, every single thing he said, who he mentioned, and why he mentioned them, you'll find that he's speaking the truth.
I can speak
Well,
for
it's
myself.
not because I have beliefs. It's not because of my beliefs. I know the Earth is a globe. Yeah. It is a fact that the Earth is a globe.
We have pictures, but
right.
I don't dislike.
It's not a globe, though, guys. It's not.
Yeah,
it's 2024, and this is the year that more people are going to wake up.
We know how planets form, and that's why planets and planetesimal objects are spheroidal.
Well, I'd like to answer his question, from the beginning, not just the argument. But there's only two flat earthers I debated that I don't like as people, and that would be John Zerka and Dustin Nemos. If you've seen my debate,
Zerka's a flat earther.
Yes.
Oh, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, he's probably a grifter, to be honest. And I want to see that about the other guys, but John Zerka, I have no friggin' clue. His argument was friggin' absurd. I don't even think he had an argument. It was weird. Anyways, I met Austin. I met him at DebateCon 4. My first debate when he was debating with John Zerka, I didn't really get to know Austin, but I'll talk to him before the debates for a few minutes, and we have a lot of stuff in common. I have nothing against Austin. I don't agree with his argument. And I don't think my number one value is truth either. I wouldn't say that either.
That's not the number one thing I value. I'd lie to protect
you. And I mean, honestly, I enjoy your show. I've watched before. Nate, William, and all you guys on the panel. The vibe I get from you is that you're generally good people. You're not out to hurt anybody, but you just believe in a system and a model that isn't reality.
No, I believe in what mathematics tells us.
So Run Boston Bear, I really truly believe flat Earth is a very big, I've mentioned this already, but I believe flat Earth is a very dangerous opener to someone to falling down a rabbit hole of conspiracy and paranoia. I don't think it's a logical idea. It's purely about how people feel and about how paranoid people can be, because you can live your whole life thinking everything's lying to you all the time. You can be a solipsist, right? You can be, and that's not a logical way to live your life, nor is it healthy either. So that's why I look at Whitsitt as not a very safe person, because he's promoting ideas that can genuinely affect people's life for the worse. It can send people down spirals that I think is bad for them.
But William, I have a question for you,
please.
And I have a response in just a moment. Whenever it's my turn.
How do you feel about Alex Jones?
Jesus.
Oh, he's a great guy. I mean, I don't know.
That was the answer you gave. What's it during the debate when you didn't want to give the answer? Yeah, sure. Okay,
yeah,
so
I mean, you know my answer.
He's an insane, crazy guy, right? Like,
of course.
15 years ago, I was listening to him, and I'm like, dude, this guy's nuts. Like, there's no way any of this is true. And then, like, I don't know what's your number, 60, 80, 90% of what he was talking about was actual reality and is true.
Oh my God.
So, like, well, tell me, what is
turning the frogs gay? Is that the argument?
Oh
But
yeah.
they
climate-
changed.
so you think
that's a meme, but like just overall, what he's talking about with the global government, all the stuff he talked about. If you listen, I don't know if you listen to it, but
Frogs do change gender under certain pressures. Certain type of frogs, they do that.
I mean, that's the point I was making. I know that was one of the claims that people like to say is
Change
false,
sex.
but actually you could be interpreting it as true.
But that's not gay. That's changing sex.
Exactly. So it's very like it's based on like an opinion. So, but my point is the most dangerous liars are liars that have large, maybe portions of their lies are founded in truth, right? And Alex Jones has that to his advantage. He tries to mix in the truth with the lies, so you are always conflating the two, and you never know what's actually true. So people just have to believe it.
Okay, but your example of the crazy guy that strapped himself to a rocket and shot himself up, below aircraft liners, like that's not legit, right? You can accept that.
What's
like,
not legit? What's not? What do you mean? What are you trying to say?
Flat Earthers
didn't have
don't
a
actually
huge-
believe he was flat earther.
Right. That's not. He's not a, like he's not a hallmark of the flat Earth community.
Yeah.
I mean, if he believed in flat Earth, he said he believed in flat Earth. I don't know how much.
I mean, come on, we're not going to absolve. You guys aren't going to absorb
I'm a Christian,
every crazy glober.
but
we're not going to
we're
not going to make Christians absolve every crazy Christian. That's silly. Or absorb every crazy Christian.
I don't know which one. He said he was a flat Earther. I don't know how much more I can give you.
Yeah.
I wonder.
So then everyone that says they're a glober that does something atrocious, we're supposed to blame all globers. For
Yeah,
that?
but are they doing what's atrocious and try to prove the globe?
If
like
it's
that's the difference.
If he literally killed himself because he thought it was a globe.
Something.
He was a stunt performer. He was doing it for a show. He did this for a living. Before that, did a lot of absurd stuff. He got in a wreck. He died. If the daredevils and stuff that do the motorcycle stuff got in a wreck and died, we wouldn't blame all motorcyclists for it.
No, but you would blame stunt performing, right? Unsafe stunt performing, right? If you're not going about it in a safe way,
the person.
I
that did it.
Yeah, so stunt performance in particular are risking their lives. I don't think risking their life is inherently wrong. I don't believe that, but
I agree. But when it's in the context of risking your life for something that's wrong, I mean that is scientifically wrong. Now you just killed someone, died for no reason, right?
But he was doing it as a stunt. He was getting money to do it also, so it wasn't entirely.
He marketed it as proving, trying to, right? So it was under the pretense that he was trying to show the Earth was flat, and he died. And if flat Earth as a concept did not exist, he might not have done that.
No, he was doing that before he became a flat earther. He was a stunt performer even before that. So he was doing risky stuff like this even before that. So just because he decides, say he was legitimately a flat earther, let's pretend he was, and he wasn't just trying to rebrand himself because he wasn't going high enough to get where he could see anything anyways. Oh my goodness, we have Witsit here. And Toby's gone, so we're adding Witsit. Thank you very much for coming up on stage, Witsit. But I do want to really quick before I introduce you to the stage, Witsit. And Toby Walker's here. Dr. J had some data. I just wanted to cover that before we continue on. Didn't you collect data from that debate?
I did. I timed how long each person talked. I was just curious because sometimes I've heard people on after shows claim who talked more, and I disagreed with them, but I didn't argue with them because I obviously didn't really know, right? So I timed it, and I will just say this: timing is very, very hard because let's just say, Witsit's being asked questions and Witsit's answering those questions, but the other person's controlling the debate. Should I be counting this as Witsit's time because he's talking, or should I be counting as the other person's time because they're really dominating the controls? Okay, so I'm just going to say this is hard to do, but I had Witsit talking about 10 minutes longer, so 33 minutes to 43 minutes. I would give that a 3-minute, wiggle either way, probably.
Good.
Okay.
Well, welcome, Austin.
What up?
Thanks for coming to the show, man. You got some flat earther supporters on here too. It's not all just an echo chamber. I'm glad you guys can make it. I've enjoyed I enjoyed my second conversation with you. I enjoyed meeting you at DebateCon 4, but that first conversation with John Zerk I didn't like very much. But,
that was crazy. Shout out to my boy Ron Boston Bear JT. Ron Boston JT. Is that it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Toby. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think, I'll be honest, like I don't think that timing is even a good metric at all for flat earth debates, because what typically happens is like flat earthers have to explain way more things. So, it's like when I'm trying to like explain the neo-Tychonian, Tychonic, blah, 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 right? Like I have to explain that, or if the other person's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know that's, I don't even know.
But explaining like, are you explaining why, I don't want to argue too much here, but I think the round earth has things they have to explain too, right? You ask a lot of questions, you ask them to explain how this could work or how that will work or whatever. So I realize it's hard, and I'm not even saying you talking 10 more minutes was right or wrong. Maybe William wanted it that way because he wanted to ask you a lot of questions. He wanted you to talk more. So I don't want to make too many pronouncements about the fact that you talk more. I just wanted to make sure, because I've heard no one's done it on this panel, that no one claims someone is dominating the conversation when definitely that probably wasn't true, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think in this debate, what happened quite a bit was he said, I don't know. And then I gave explanations. I mean, that happened like 10 different times. But, no, it's cool. I think it got a little interruptive at the beginning, but I think it smoothed out. I don't think it was like a big deal either way. I mean,
same for me.
We've got a question for What's It.
Yeah, here flat earth denier. And when we were talking about, if you watch it from the beginning, I think I offered that criticism to William too, is a little bit interrupty at first, but then it all smoothed out. But for his first debate, man, I have to give props to William. I think he did really well. And the poll said he beat you 53% to 47%. But
yeah, that's a biased crowd, bro. Let's be real.
Bias. Usually you win all those polls. What are you talking about?
In this channel? No way.
Yeah, usually on Modern Day Debates.
On MDD maybe, but not on this channel.
Oh, my channel. No, I'm talking about MDD.
I won the MDD.
No, it's 53 to 47 at the end.
Okay.
Can I ask?
But I was marketing to get you to lose. Anyways.
That's cool. I got some anti-flat earth fanboys. What's up?
Can I ask Witsit a question?
Mm-hmm.
Witsit, I grew up in Lompoc, right outside of Vandenberg Air Force Base. Moved to Northern California, and SpaceX is launching rockets like every week or every couple weeks or whatever out of Vandenberg. My family's sending me pictures of it. We saw them when we came down a couple years ago, watching one of them as we drove through Paso Robles. Hit the atmosphere, and you see that big giant sky like brightness where the plume of the rocket is glowing in the night sky as the sun's going down, and you see that rocket plume get illuminated from what is dark to us because the sun's gone down, but lighted by
the sun,
presumably the sun. I just and I'm talking to you now on Starlink. I'm down here in my shop, which is powered by Starlink. What is all that like on the flat model? What is that guy who's doing so much for humanity and the technology I'm using right now? Like I know, don't tell me it's balloons.
Wait, why wouldn't Starlink work on a flat Earth? Maybe you can help me.
No. I'm not saying it wouldn't. Maybe enlighten me on how it would. Just don't tell me it's balloons.
Oh, there's many ways. So, like
Okay.
all the GPS and the satellite data, it uses like I said, it's in the debate, right? It uses a variant c, like meaning like a speed of light that changes. It has a preferred direction. So that actually debunks that it's a moving Earth or that relativity is true or anything like that. So the real question is, why do they have to use that? Why do they have to use an ether cosmology? But anyway, so things go to high altitudes and they can catch an ether drift that's been measured, and they move in ellipses from our perspective. So that's how we actually use the math to make them work. So we actually use a geocentric position and we treat them as actual ellipses. We treat them with we use real inertial forces and all these things. Like the inertial forces imply that there's actually a net centripetal force of the universe moving around the Earth. That's what the satellite equations use. So for me, there's no problem putting stuff up there and catching the drift that's been measured. You could just move around in that drift. And of course, we have like electrogravitic propulsion and all kinds of things. There are lots of balloons up there. I don't think Starlinks are balloons, though.
But we never like.
So
you talk about this speed really quick. You talk about the speed of light, but we've never measured the one-way speed of light. All we've ever is measured looped speed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but relativity requires C be absolute. Specifically requires it. It's a fundamental postulate,
No, it
but
doesn't.
it literally does.
No, it requires it to be constant, not absolute. Those don't mean the same thing. It is possible that the speed of light could be different, so it's not required to be absolute. The speed of light is not different, so it is constant.
Okay, tell me how it can be constant and not
change.
Absolute. Yeah,
It just doesn't
enlighten me.
change. Its value
No,
doesn't change.
If you listen to the question, you would probably know how to answer it, right? Tell me how it can be constant and not absolute.
I just did. Those mean different things.
You literally didn't.
How so?
Yeah, I did. Here, let me do it again. So, if the speed of light were absolute, this is largely going to be taken to mean that the speed of light is in some form like necessary, in which it cannot change. It has to be this way. But that is not the case. It is entirely conceivable. It's possible, physically possible, that the speed of light could have been different, which means that it's not absolute, because that would entail that it isn't necessary that it be the value that it is, because it's contingent. It could have been different. So it's not an absolute thing. However, given that, the speed of light does not change. So it's a constant quantity.
Yeah, so the truth is that I said in relativity.
Yeah, relativity is what tells us it's.
You notice how you have to always interrupt, just like when we debated in person.
It's not a debate.
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
but it's also not a conversation. If someone
you guys want to debate about this,
yeah, can we bring it back to the explain this to me? So
ahead,
you're
Dr.
saying
J.
Starlink is putting up? Are they
down.
putting up satellites and they're circling around up there? Just like real easy words, like they're putting up satellites or they're not putting up satellites?
Yeah, we put stuff up in the sky. Absolutely, that's what I think.
And they are circling around like above us in like a circle.
Well, the actual paths are ellipses, not circles.
Whatever ellipses. So they're going around like this above the flat Earth. Is how you're saying it's working?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
like balloons.
They don't have to be balloons. Why do they have to be balloons?
What else could they be? I guess airplanes.
Why do they have to be planes?
Helicopters.
Why do they have to be helicopters?
I'm asking. Do you have other ideas of what they could be?
Yes, they can just be like what we call satellites.
Yes.
We actually transform the equations from a stationary position using actual inertial forces in the math, as if we treat the universe like it's spinning around the Earth, creating angular momentum with a net centripetal force. That's what the actual satellite equations account for, a real set of inertial forces. Right? Your model says they're actually pseudo forces. You have to treat them like they're real, but they're not actually there. They do ellipses over top of us, and we have an ether drift that's been measured to increase with altitude. So why could you not put something up there to catch the drift or use something like electrogravitic propulsion? The part about the balloons is that there are an insane amount of balloons being used for an insane amount of things, like the Google Loon project trying to give internet to people in the middle of nowhere. They didn't use satellites. They used balloons. So yes, we do use balloons for lots of stuff, but it's not just balloons. And it's easily transformed over a plane. That's just a coordinate system transform. And then from a stationary Earth, you actually take it and transform it and claim, well, we have to treat it like it's stationary, but it's actually not. And then, but the kicker here is that the satellites prove that relativity is wrong and that the Earth's not moving, because it uses a variant speed of light, right? So if the light takes 5 minutes to get from one location, never that long, obviously, but the light gets from San Francisco to New York in a certain time, whenever it goes back the other way, it takes a different time. So either the distance between those two cities changed, which is ridiculous, or the propagation rate of light has a preferred direction. And that's what the evidence shows. that means relativity is wrong. That means that the Earth is not moving. So that's a major you guys problem. Satellites are like flat earthers' best friends.
Hold on, Ozzy, and I just to you, point of moderation. At some point, there is something you said I would like to respond to.
That I said?
Yes.
I'm still waiting
I just want to say really quick okay, I'll let other people talk. What do you want to say, Leo?
So you had mentioned the one-way speed of light. That's just a non-problem. We don't need to do that to know what the speed of light is, or that it is. I know, or that it is. This is important, particularly for Whitsitt, or to know that the speed of light is constant, because the speed of light being constant relates to a fundamental symmetry in quantum field theory known as Lorentz symmetry, and this symmetry dictates like the physical laws that we're capable of probing and what the structure of reality itself is. So Lorentz invariant quantum theories predict that every particle is going to have an antiparticle that would change if you changed the speed of light, because you would change that Lorentz symmetry that holds in virtue of the constancy of the speed of light. Dispersion relations and particle interactions are induced by what's called four-momentum conservation, which is itself a direct consequence of the fact that no massive body can match the speed of light. And so stuff like this means that if light had different energies from different sources, which would be the case if it were variant, light coming from those different sources would arrive at different times, and we just straightforwardly do not observe that. So we don't need to like physically to like in a sort of flowery sense to word it. We don't need to like take a speed gun and shoot it at a photon to figure out what light is. We know that light is constant, because if it wasn't, physical reality would look completely different. And we know that C is equal to precisely 2.99792,458 times 10 to the 8th meters per second.
It's a fact that the satellites.
Everything I said is a fact. Yes, you're getting it.
Okay, let's.
The satellites talk. I just want everyone to know this, right? I'll drop the paper in the StreamYard chat, right? He's obviously never read it, but there are many papers explaining it, many experiments that have been done, and it shows that the propagation rate, electromagnetic propagation rate, is faster east to west than west to east. That means it's not
that was
constant.
disproven in the late 1800s, actually.
Really? So the satellite data from 2002 was disproven in the 1800s.
Yeah, because there is no satellite data that there's an ether, because there isn't an ether.
We're not. So you notice how you changed what we're talking about. We're actually
no, but that's what you're getting at. That's what you're talking about, because you've already mentioned it. I'm not stupid.
Well, obviously, you may be lost because I'm talking about satellite data from 2000 onward, and you're talking about the 1800s.
Yeah, well, you're just misinterpreting the data. And if you would actually link the article, I could show that.
Okay, I'm about to link it right now. and by the way, remember what he said? I misinterpreted the data. What he'll end up saying is, "No, this paper's wrong." Okay,
well, it definitely is. Yeah.
See, there you go. And it's actual data. It comes from. Let's read where it comes from.
Is it an impossibility that the paper could be wrong? What's it?
Is it impossible that you guys could maybe not know anything about it?
Oh, it could totally be possible.
Wait, hold on. No, here. Notice what he just did. He straightforwardly dodged. He didn't even acknowledge that William.
Dude, you got to get a girlfriend.
Let me
acknowledge that William.
Hey,
all he did was ask his own.
Right, Boston Bear has been trying to say something for like 5 minutes now, I think. Did you want to say something, Run Boston Bear?
Yeah, I've been waiting to respond to William. He didn't directly ask me something, but we were kind of in a little go back and forth. And here's what I'm going to say. You made a claim that flat Earth is dangerous and that people go into like a dark conspiratorial mindset and it's just really a bad thing. I wanted to say personally, for the last 2 years of walking this journey, I have become more creative, more awake to nature, and I've met at least 1,000 people that feel freed from an oppression that they've come out from under a lie. And it's caused me to ask questions like, what is in my food? And what kind of water should I be drinking? Fluorinated or not? And so I'm just trying to say, when people wake up to the truth, it can be a good thing as well.
Well, I'm happy that you interpret what has happened as a good thing. But most of the time when you have to question things like, okay, what poison might be in my water and what poison might be in my foods now and who's lying to me all the time, constantly throughout the day, every single moment of the day, usually that doesn't give people a satisfying feeling. Usually that's going to make people feel more anxious about their life and have more anxiety and a less enjoyable experience as a living person. But even worse so, it's going to make them probably make less informed decisions, because they'll be asking questions unnecessarily and therefore making some decisions.
Wait, what questions are unnecessarily asked? Wait,
because you're going to stop believing credible institutions that should be believed.
Who? Fauci?
Okay, we're not going to talk about that topic.
I know.
But
I'm going to
there is a good question. There is a great question that maybe William and Witzik could discuss. I know it's not a debate, but and I know the answer, I think, but I'd like to hear your guys' answer from the globe model perspective and from the flat Earth perspective. Why can't we just accept the difference in speed of light one way or another, given that the Earth is actually spinning west to east? Does the speed of light change if it's leaving from something that's moving?
No.
No, it can't.
Certainly not supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Special relativity specifically says that it's constant. You guys need relativity to explain Michelson-Morley and still claim the orbit. And even if it was because of rotation, which it literally can't be according to relativity, that would be the opposite way, right? The light propagates faster east to west. So if the Earth is spinning to the east, that doesn't even help you. So your model specifically claims that light is constant. And what has been proven is actually it's variant and has a preferred direction and changes with altitude and correlates to the position of the sun, the solar motion. None of these things works within your model. It's supposed to be constant. And yes, relativity claims it's absolute, meaning it's the same in all reference frames.
Maybe I can use an example. I give an example. If we have a spacecraft going 1 times the speed of light that way, and 180 degrees away, we have another spacecraft going 1 times the speed of light that way. In reference frame from this spacecraft, how fast is this one going? Is it going
speed of light?
2 times the speed of light or 1 times the speed of light?
It's going the speed of light.
Speed of light. It's going the speed of light.
Yeah, it has to go the speed of light.
It's really hard to explain, but I could probably show it with this book on relativity that I have and my not slideshows, but the thing that you can draw on, so I could do space-time diagrams, and then it kind of makes more sense. But relativity, well, really just because relativity is a theory that we made about the universe. The universe is a really good way of making you think that you can trick it. You can't. So yeah, the speed of light is constant. We know it's constant. The Michelson-Morley experiment disproved an ether because it did not detect any ether wind. So there is no ether wind. Light doesn't move faster or slower in different directions. So yeah.
These are factually wrong
statements. There's just a lot of people that reject like the basic aspects of fundamental physics because if they didn't, they wouldn't be able to as easily maintain their worldviews.
Yeah, but this is what's so funny. That was projection because you need the constant speed of light to maintain your worldview. I dropped the names of the papers.
The speed of light wasn't
you notice how you always interrupt.
Worldview.
Leo, you have no social awareness.
True, and I'm not going to let you do that.
You have no social awareness. You need to do some push-ups or something.
What I say is just way more intelligent than what you say.
Come on,
no, he literally needs to do some type of physical activity so he doesn't get all antsy in the pantsy, like he needs to let other people speak.
Stop complaining because you're being spanked.
I'm being spanked by being incessantly censored by
well, no, it's funny because if I brought Witsit out to the cattle farm that I work at, he wouldn't know what the fuck to do because he's never done actual work.
You don't work at a cattle farm and do anything physical, bro. Leo, please don't interrupt me. Leo, can I respond? Hey, buddy, Leo, can I respond? Hey, Leo, can I respond? Hey, am I allowed to respond, King Leo?
No,
right. And you know what's funny? When I was sitting there with you in person, you weren't even a fraction of this stuff. That's the funniest part.
I don't know what you mean.
You were so soft in person, but you're so tough in the internet.
Wait,
so
Leo works
anyway,
at I'm
going to respond, please. Can I respond? So you said that we have to deny that the light is speed of light is constant to protect our worldview. But in reality, you're denying the evidence that it's variant by not even examining it. I dropped both the papers immediately in the StreamYard chat. Okay. And this is where I'm going to now read where the data comes from, right? This is so funny. The standards for the synchronization of clock stations used by the Global Position System have been published in 1990 by the International Radio Consultative Committee, International Telecommunication Union, CCIR, 1990, which uses similar rules as the 1980 publication of the CCDS, the Bureau International Day. It's in French. The Global Positional System determines that after clock U moves away from clock A in New York toward clock B in San Francisco, its display accumulates an extra 14 nanoseconds. This was experimentally an equivalent experiment has been done carrying a clock between Washington and Tokyo by Tsuburai in 1976. So these are the official manuals on clock synchronization of GPS satellites. So you saying no doesn't mean anything. So if you want to go actually refute the papers, we can go from there. You're just basically reasserting the religious dogma where you're uninformed about it. Doesn't change facts.
Yeah, I am uninformed about the false things you say about physics because that's not what's taught in the field because it's not true.
I just read the actual official manual for clock synchronization of GPS satellites.
But what you read wasn't useful in the context of this debate.
No, it literally is the data about clock synchronization.
I heard you don't have to repeat yourself.
Yeah, I heard what you said. It just didn't mean
it was a waste of time.
No, it's not a waste of time.
You're going
Here's a good question.
I am because I'm
not a waste of time. That's what Einstein's 1905 paper was based on. Was this exact clock
I'm
synchronization.
retarded and you're just a fucking normie.
Toby, what were you trying to say, Toby?
1905 on the electrodynamics of moving bodies. Albert Einstein invokes one, quote unquote, imaginary physical experiment. That's all he invokes to derive special relativity. And that one physical or quote imaginary physical experiment is the clock synchronization. And the Paul Marmot paper that's referencing the data that Whitsit's referring to explicitly exposes the fact that atomic clock synchronization does not work. There's a proportional velocity relationship to atomic clock decay. So
what does that even mean?
So if your interpretation is correct,
he's stupid.
Clock decay. I don't know what that means.
We know
I know what you're talking about. When you move a clock, it experiences time dilation because of the motion, and that dilation changes the rate at which time moves for that clock.
Yeah. So did you listen to what Austin read? Because
this has been well understood for over 100 years. You just don't know shit about relativity.
This is embarrassing. You didn't even know what the clock decay meant, and you're trying to pretend you're teaching us about it.
It doesn't mean anything.
Sometimes I wonder if this is my channel or show, but anyway. I do have a good question. Hold on. Somebody brought something up. I think it's related to the topic. Maybe we can educate some people because we have a lot of intelligent people here that do understand this, regardless of what side of the fence they're on.
Well, there ain't anybody on the other side that understands it.
Let's pretend otherwise. Thank you, Leo.
I can't. Sorry. That would be dishonest of me.
Yeah, we just dunked all over you, Leo. So
I can role play.
One of the debates isn't, to be honest.
Anyways, okay. Can we warp the
honest
path?
People are more convincing.
Well, then you should know the answer to this, Leo. Can we warp the path of light, mass, warp space-time, the underlying fabric of the universe, anything that has mass exerts a gravitational pull on all the other stuff that has mass?
Incorrect.
Does light actually bend when it goes towards a black hole? Let's say that.
Your model says that the light is still traveling in a linear path. No, your model claims that the light is still traveling in a linear path, but that from an external reference frame, it would be falling through the curvature of space-time, and therefore it would also take a curved path from that reference frame because it's geodesic, and gravity does not pull on anything in your model. There is no gravitational pull.
You're right. Gravity isn't a force.
It's a term.
That's right, but teach your own side that because they all use these dumbed-down layman terms.
They do. Every physicist I know is the one who's correcting people and saying gravity isn't technically a force. So,
all these people pretending flat earthers are stupid using the seventh grade understanding of gravity are ironically the ones that are being stupid.
You wouldn't use a seventh grade understanding of gravity for this stuff. You would use
general relativity. Can I explain that to them?
Which is far beyond the level of a seventh grader.
When he said that it was going in a linear direction, he means it actually doesn't bend to its own frame of reference.
Inertial frame.
So it's the light's own inertial frame of reference. Thank you, William. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a scientist. I went to friggin' law school and business school. Anyways, but to the light's own inertial frame of reference, it is not bending. It is traveling in a straight line. Light does not bend. But from another frame of reference is looking at it, where it's lensing into the. Maybe I'm using the wrong word. It looks like to that frame of reference like it's bending. There.
I'm confused of why is refraction not an answer to this question? Refraction bends the path of light.
No, we're talking like in space, like the gravitational lensing of galaxies that we observe and we continue to observe in. So I don't know if you saw the
ones
James
that don't match
Webb's
the gravity
version.
predictions.
I don't know if you saw, William, the James Webb's version of the ultra deep field. We all know about the Hubble, but the James Webb, you notice that some of the stuff looks curved.
Well, some of the stuff looked curved in the original too.
Yeah, you guys got to run away from
that's gravitational lensing.
The variance of light, huh? So I dropped the papers
Well,
before
I
you guys
already
actually.
That, so why
no,
would
you
we go
just
back
you
to
just
something
actually
that
you
I
just hand wave dismissed it, but here it explains right
because
here.
You didn't show that this is what physics teaches. You didn't
except
show
that I
this is
literally
what
dropped the actual papers.
Yeah, you dropped papers. Dropping papers doesn't mean anything.
I dropped the papers
that
science.
Show me the math.
Buddy, are you going to chill up? Buddy, the math is right there. I dropped the papers that cite the experiments in the official manuals, for example, in the simultaneous transmission of radio signals between New York and San Francisco. It does not give directly this. Does not give directly the same correct clock display.
Family moment here.
In both cities. There's a difference of about 14 nanoseconds that must be subtracted to the clock in San Francisco in order to get the correct GPS time. This correction is identical to the one when we are carrying clocks. The correction corresponds to a change of velocity c plus v between stations. So this is a factual thing that GPS has to account for to get the correct distances.
I know this is not all these hard to understand. We have to all these claims correct the clocks on our GPS satellites, and that's because of time dilation.
No, it's not. It's about dude. Okay, explain how time dilation equals c plus v. Go.
Well, c plus v. I don't know what you mean by that. That's not the equation.
But we're still.
Look at the paper. But time dilation is what happens when a clock reads a different amount of time as a result of changes in the velocity of the frame.
Usually but that is not relevant to the Earth all moving the same and light moving on the Earth. It's c plus v showing a preferred direction for electromagnetic propagation.
So from the Earth's frame of reference, yeah, there are the dilation changes because you don't understand how special relativity actually works. That's the problem here.
No, objectively, there isn't time dilation changes at the same altitude with different directions. Please enlighten the room how there's time dilation at the same altitude with one going west and one going east. Go.
They're both moving. Their direction doesn't fucking matter to the dilation. But again, when you don't understand special relativity...
Deduct the question.
Maybe we could change the topic back again.
Yes, I have...
maybe we can run away from the topic because they have to pretend they're smarter than us, but they don't know about it.
I just want to keep it to.
It destroys your whole religion, Ozian. Why would we not focus on this?
Groundbreaking breakthrough with your understanding of theory of relativity. I would love it if you could just get that peer reviewed, and then you could be the most rich man and historical figure of all time.
No,
there's nothing stopping you from doing
thrown out of a library window is what.
Yeah, we just dropped a peer-reviewed paper.
I just said you peer review one because this is a claim you're making.
No, it's not a claim I'm making. It's a claim that other PhD physicists have written about extensively, built upon experimental data that none of you have read, don't even understand, but are pretending you know is wrong. That's what's actually
William, it's okay. Witsit doesn't know what 4 velocity is. We can move on.
Okay, I got it.
Dude, do you see the little games they play? Like instead of addressing the actual topic on the table,
over and over and over and over.
You're misinterpreting the paper. Witsit.
The paper you haven't read.
Yeah, because I know who you are.
Okay, do you want to bet $5,000 I didn't misinterpret it?
Yeah, 5,000.
Okay, no, I'm dead serious.
I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious.
Okay, we're gonna put 5,000 in escrow to see if I misinterpreted the paper, and then we're gonna have an actual stream, and you're gonna have to prove where I misinterpreted it. Deal?
I unmuted you.
Yeah.
Or you might have to unmute yourself. Oh, you've muted yourself now.
I don't know if you wanted to change subjects, but I had a couple of questions for Witsit if we have.
Okay. Well, somebody's asked me like 5 times to ask Witsit this question. I feel like I owe it now. What was the hypotheses for the Michelson-Morley experiment, and what did it falsify?
Okay, so the name of the paper is The Relative Motion of Earth and the Luminiferous Ether, right? And the hypothesis is that the orbital motion of the Earth, it being a circular motion, would cause a displacement in the two light beams, giving us an interference pattern based on the 30 kilometer per second orbital speed. What was observed was that fringe shift was not detected and measured. There was a fringe shift consistently measured, though. So if Newtonian mechanics was true, that would mean that the orbit of the Earth was falsified.
How did they? What did they explain that variance as?
Instrumental error. The slight amount that was detected, they claim, was just instrumental error. Okay. And then what they had to do was replace Newtonian physics with Einsteinian physics, because Newton said that there was a force acting on the Earth causing it to move in an actual circular motion. So what Einstein said was, no, the Earth is moving in a linear path, even though it's going in an orbit. From the Earth, it's moving linear. So that's why the interferometer couldn't detect the motion, was because it detects circular motion, not linear motion. Right. So it wasn't just that the ether was falsified. It was that Newtonian mechanics requires an ether because there's no time variable and it's instantaneous action at a distance. So everyone agreed with ether, agreed with Newtonian mechanics. When we did the test, we found out we had to throw Newtonian mechanics or the orbit out. Well, so what they did was throw the ether out, replace Newtonian with Einsteinian physics, and claim the result was instrumental error. That's an accurate representation of the test.
Yeah, that's just a development of special relativity. Yeah, we got rid of the things that we didn't need to explain what's going on around us.
Hold on, Leo. I want to ask a follow-up clip. Do you recognize, it seems like in the debate today, you talked about like optics could have errors, right? I think you would agree with that. So instrument error is a real thing. You agree, right?
Yeah, but but instrumental error doesn't explain a consistent fringe shift that's direction preferred, that has a preferred direction and correlates directly to altitude and to the equinoxes hundreds of thousands of times. Random instrumental error does not only have an error in a certain direction that correlates to altitude and season. So instrumental error isn't a viable explanation. What they tried to propose was that it must have been the temperature causing the apparatus to contract or expand, right? But then that was tested. That was tested.
How expensive is it to rerun the test in 2024?
We have way better interferometers now. So we're actually working on running the test again and running it at different altitudes and running it in the south because none of that data exists with pretty big funding. I mean, how much does the test cost? I don't know. Maybe a university could help with a really precise interferometer, but we do want to replicate the test, but the test has already been replicated. It's been replicated many times and even in the 21st century. Right. And the only tests that supposedly get closer to zero, the way MC Toon and all those people love to say, is you have to go to a basement underground, change the length of the arms, change the medium of the light, run it through crystals, and try to get it close to zero. Because when you do the test the way you're supposed to, which is at higher altitudes with the same length arms, you consistently get that fringe shift, which proves that there is a drift in a background and the Earth is not moving through space, and there's no way around it. And now we've actually developed linear interferometry, which shows that interferometers can detect linear velocity, which directly refutes Einstein's save attempt anyway, because if we can detect linear motion, we should be able to use linear interferometers to detect the orbit of the Earth, which they do not.
If the Earth isn't moving through the ether, where's the ether drift coming from?
The sidereal rotation is actually the detection of the sidereal rotation is actually the drift of the ether around the Earth. There is only a rotation around.
Why does the ether drift?
Why does it drift? Because there's some type of primary movement causing an angular momentum around the Earth.
So your theory requires some form of wacky energy to make this stuff happen. I don't
you mean like dark energy? You mean like how your universe requires some wacky form of dark energy?
Like he's using your logic.
Hey, can I ask you about experiment?
No. Address the point. Doesn't your model require?
He almost.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, see, I don't have to.
Relativity requires dark matter, dark energy. Yes.
Okay, but but my point is actually that there's a central source of the energy and it creates a vortex like a magnetic field.
Hold on. Let me
Mine's
clarify
actually viable and real. Who cares about that?
The current model says there's something. Some people have decided to label it as dark energy, dark matter. Just to clarify.
Cosmologists have.
some cosmology.
So there doesn't have to be something. If you don't make the assumptions of gravity and the assumptions of expansion, you don't need either one of those things.
I know you've never done the Michelson and Morley experiment. If I told you I have done the Michelson and Morley experiment in my college career, would that influence your interpretation of my credibility to talk about the experiment?
I would have to hear the details of it. Sure.
So,
maybe
so it might improve my credibility.
But
I have done it.
If you're able to articulate actual understanding of what I just stated about it, sure.
Yeah, what you stated is not correct. You're misinterpreting the findings. You need your ether to exist. That's why you disagree with the findings of the Nicholson and Morley. You have incentive for the ether to exist. You refuse to acknowledge what we know is true, and you hate that we can actually explain it with relativistic physics. So that's why you have to deny relativistic physics, because it disproves your ether, which you need to exist.
I literally don't need the ether, and what's funny is quantum basically acknowledges an ether, a relativistic ether, an electromagnetic vacuum.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, well, I can quote Robert Laughlin, a Nobel Prize-winning quantum physicist, who says that quite literally people don't say the word. Stop interrupting me when I'm dunking on you. You realize if LeBron crosses you up and he goes to dunk and then you tackle him, you didn't beat LeBron.
Why do I give a fuck about LeBron?
Well, it depends if you're playing football or basketball. Maybe
LeBron plays basketball.
Just for William's sake, Austin tries to argue that like quantum fields are an ether, which is absolutely not what quantum fields are.
We're actually going to stay on subject, right? So you're saying that relativity fixes the problem, but actually, according to Einstein himself, which it didn't just get rid of the ether, according to Einstein, you need relativity to explain it. It actually falsified Newtonian mechanics. But what he said was that if the instrumental error, if the fringe shift is not some underlying instrumental error, then my entire theory of relativity falls like a house of cards because experiment reigns supreme. So he admitted that if the finding was consistently found, right, and it couldn't be proven to be instrumental error, that relativity would be falsified. So it's been falsified. That's just a fact.
Do you think Einstein was a flat earther?
That's totally non sequitur.
Who has said it wasn't instrumental error? What paper has been published that said it was not instrumental error?
Do you want me to drop the papers for you?
Sure.
Okay, sure. I'll actually read some of the names of them.
I do have a question really quick. I have an experiment. I know. That's not a question. I do want to go ahead, drop the papers, and I'll read the papers. But I do want to talk about.
Are you going to actually read the papers, though?
Yeah, I'll read them.
I'm kind of
read them. I'll tell you what's it. We could set aside a show, and we'll go over the papers.
Okay, great.
Let's do it. I'm okay with that. I'm not an expert, so I'll be a lay person.
What always happens is people make fun of flat earthers. They say, "Oh, you guys deny the scientists. No scientist would agree with you." And then I have a PhD physicist come on and say everything I'm saying. We have all these papers from all these PhD physicists, and we're not appealing to their authority. They're showing actual experimental data, and then not one globe earther can even read and comprehend the paper, and they all know it's wrong. How is that not religious?
I'm saving the paper right now. Do you make fun of Globers?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, then there we go.
I make fun of not just because they're a glober. I make fun of their disingenuous bad faith tactics. How people here are trying to claim that I'm stupid and don't understand this, and literally they're projecting that they know nothing about it at all. Right? Yeah, I think that's super goofy. Leo admits he's never even read the paper, but he knows it's wrong. The other guy says I'm misinterpreting it, but he's never read it. Yeah, that's super goofy.
I told you I did the experiment.
That didn't happen.
You did the experiment. Did you find a fringe shift?
Did we find a fringe shift?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What do you mean?
I thought you did the experiment. You don't even know what a fringe shift is.
You don't know what a fringe shift is?
What did you find in your experiment? What were your results, William, of your experiment?
You're able to see the waves have a. Oh man, I forget the exact terminology. Interference pattern. That's the idea. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But it's not supposed to have one. According to your model, there should be zero interference.
But that's not. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. The ether doesn't make the interference pattern exist.
No. Let's stick on one point here. Your model predicts with relativity that there would be zero interference.
I don't believe you. This is
Okay,
false.
well, the reason is because if it's moving 30 kilometers per second through space, the Earth, right, we have a predicted value that the one light beam should be behind the other. We didn't measure that. We measured something way smaller. So Einstein came in and said, okay, actually, the Earth is moving in a straight path. It's free falling through space in a linear path, right? Through the geodesic of the bending and warping of space-time. So you can't detect its motion. So really, there's no interference, there's no displacement, there's no friend shift because you're moving in a linear path, the interferometer can detect it. And then people said, well, what about the little interference pattern that we are measuring? He said, that's just instrumental error. But isn't a real
instrumental error.
That's what your model has to say it is, dude.
It has to be, otherwise C's not constant.
Do the experiment over and over without saying it's instrumental error, like I did.
Okay, then you're admitting that C is variant.
No.
This dude's here corroborating Miller, I guess. Did you see seasonal fluctuations too? I'm just making a joke, man. Dude, Dayton Miller measured, like, so in Michelson-Morley they did that measurement, right? And then they got a fringe shift. It just didn't add up to the 30 kilometers per second that they expected, which would have corroborated orbital velocity, because that was back before they had to start saying that, you know, there was all those other galactic speeds going on. But in any case, didn't match the orbital velocity. So what they did measure was 7 kilometers per second, around 7 kilometers per second. And they had to say it was instrumental error, or that's what they ended up saying down the road or whatever, because once Einstein said C was constant, you can't have any measurement on that, right? But the interesting thing is that the instrumental error, Dayton Miller came along and he took the exact same Michelson-Morley interferometer and added more mirrors to it to make it more sensitive, so you could get an even more sensitive reading. And then he took it up on a mountain. Well, first he did a ton of measurements with it in his normal location, and he published a bunch of his measurements, and he got criticized heavily because people didn't want to accept the idea that there was a measurable ether drift and that it had any sort of seasonal fluctuation that correlated with the sun. Because if it correlates with the sun, well then, you know, it raises a bunch of questions, especially later down the road when you start to say that's a measurement of Earth rotation. But I digress. So Michelson-Morley had started doing these measurements. He started getting a lot of pushback from the physics community, saying things like you're not accounting for heat, you're not accounting for vibrations. And so every time that happened, he took their criticisms very seriously, and he went to great lengths to try and specifically account for that specific variable, and to the point that he was checking different shieldings to the interferometer. He came to the conclusion that actually metals can he decided his conclusion was that to get an actual sensitive reading, to actually measure this variance, this fluctuation, you had to do the opposite of shielding the device, do the opposite of placing it underground. You want to bring it up into the high altitudes, and then you get a greater fluctuation. It's unfortunately it means that there's not an Earth rotation, because if you go up and down and that speed changes, then it's not just a rotational momentum, or it's not just a rotational vector. But so if it correlates with the equinoxes, that's a big problem. But then they tried to smear him. Then he went up on Mount Wilson. And he took 2 years worth of data. He ended up with, over 2 million, or was it over 5 million measurements? Because each time that he took a reading, each time that he did a run of the interferometer, he got a bunch of measurements. But anyways, that's since been, people came along and ran hatchet jobs. They've done other interferometer measurements where they, like I said, they use like a dielectric, they use like an insulator, or they use a metal, which Yuri Galev came along in 2003 and showed that you can actually, you can specifically measure the viscosity of the ether, and that using dielectric insulators or using metals specifically inhibits the sensitivity of your reading. And it's interesting, like with LIGO and with the twins facility to LIGO. Well, actually, going back before that, let's go to 2017. They tried to measure the velocity of light, and they used resonance to do that. And in 2017, when they used resonance to measure the velocity, their regression model that they used had an error weighted. They used the error weighted least squares regression model, and the error weighting was specifically to throw out errors that were related to seasonal variance and daily fluctuations. And you can't have the seasonal variance and the daily fluctuations. Basically, what they were doing was statistically removing Miller's findings from the 2017 readings. But then you go to LIGO, and it's like, okay, well, if they're doing that with just before they even look at the actual data with the resonance readings, what's going on with LIGO? Well, the LIGO data is called noise. It's literally called noise. And they run it through what's called a convolutional neural network, where it goes through normalization layers, it goes through pooling layers, it goes, basically, it's the convolutional part of the convolutional neural network. They take the noise data and they extrapolate it out across multiple dimensions. And they add spatiality to it across multiple dimensions, and then they go through and they do pooling of different shapes within those dimensions, and then they do classification on all that, and then they do correlation on all that, and then they remove spatial data so that they can then they can, I guess, fit it into their model better. And then after they've removed all that spatial data, then they go and run more classification on it, and there's they do. I don't know. In any case, it's a whole neural net. It's a whole convolutional neural network just to get to the point where then they can say that they measured a gravitational wave. Do they measure something that correlates with the sky? I think it's possible. But it's interesting because when you look at the LIGO, like what the LIGO guys have to say, the first time they all got excited. They thought they measured a gravitational wave. And then what do you know? It turned out it was actually sample data that they had planted. They didn't even measure the gravitational wave. So then the second time when they supposedly actually measured it, the dudes didn't believe it. The one dude didn't even buy into it for like 2 months, probably because he didn't want to feel like a dupe for getting oh, we measured it again. Oh, you guys you dumb scientists. It was sample data. But so I guess they if you can find the YouTube video, the guy's like, yeah, we walked all over the facility looking for USB sticks, and like we were sure we got bugged or something. They wanted to know what is this data legit that we measured here. But all that is to say, there's a variance in the variant. What Austin's been referring to, the Paul Marmot paper, that's not just GPS. I mean, that is GPS. That's how it works. The atomic clock decay is directly proportional to the ratio of east to west or west to east. It decays more when you go east to west, and it gains more when you go west to east. That's atomic clock decay and the velocity of light, and along with the relative proportional velocity of the craft. So there's a bunch of ways that sees variant. But it's not just that. It also happens with coaxial cables across the ocean floor. They go faster one way than the other way. Fiber optics across the ocean floor, they go faster one way than the other way. Who would have? Well, C must be constant, but for some reason, fiber optics across the ocean floor aren't. And then it's also interesting too, just on that note, while we're talking about fiber optics across the ocean floor, fiber cable is built to have the best possible refraction rates that you can have, so that you can get your data signal as far as you can. It's funny how it still attenuates no matter what kind of technology they do. Light just doesn't go forever. Who would have thought that light attenuates? All right, I'm done with my monologue. Thanks for letting me go, you guys.
Physics says that light does that. Anyway, all I heard there was pretty much just data science bad.
See, of course, you have to always, do that.
Much more than that. I did say a lot.
Dude, don't take the bait from Leo, man. It's bad faith. Ozine, can you let me share this quote from Einstein real quick? I share my screen just to read this.
What? It was just my honest opinion.
This is Einstein. I'm just going to read this, and I'm going to let whoever else talk. But Einstein said, "I believe that I have really found the relationship between gravitation and electricity, assuming that the Miller experiments are based on a fundamental error. Otherwise, the whole relativity theory collapses like a house of cards." And that's him in a letter to Robert Millikan. And then here he says, 4 years later, "My opinion about Miller's experiments is the following. Should the positive results be confirmed, then the special theory of relativity, and with it the general theory of relativity in its current form, would be invalid." Then he says the Latin phrase for experiment reigns supreme. "Only the equivalence of inertia and gravitation would remain. However, they would have to lead to a significantly different theory." And that's him in a letter to Slauson. This is after years and years of Miller repeating the experiments with hundreds of thousands, up to 5,200,000 measurements, constantly taking into account all of the potential errors, variables, and proving that the result was consistent and correlated with direction, altitude, and the seasons. It's been replicated in the 21st century. So take Einstein's word for it. It absolutely refutes relativity. A basic understanding of relativity would show you that. Okay, I'm going to stop screen.
Hey, Witsit and everybody. I got to dip out. But I appreciate you having me on the panel. Toby, what you said was awesome. I'm sorry you had to try to cram it in like 5 seconds. But if anybody's interested, they can look at Space Audits on YouTube or Ether Cosmology, because there's long discussion, roundtable discussions about this. And I actually had Robert Bennett, a PhD, on that has some excellent information on there if you want to learn and listen and try to dig into this, because the truth will set you free. There's been a lot of emotions, high emotions, and people feeling triggered. Dude, this whole time we haven't moved an iota, and they're saying we're moving at like millions of miles an hour in like 5 or 6 different vectors. So love y'all. You'll get it. 2024 is the year, and we'll all be friends.
What's up, brother? Really quick, yeah. Thank you, Boston. Well, thank you for coming on.
Let it be the year you prove it.
You don't feel vectors; you feel change in vectors.
Let it be the year you profit.
But you know what's crazy is like, how's there no change in vector if we're on an elliptic with the bank? But this is what I want. Does everyone here agree that if the speed of light is actually variant and changes with direction, if that's true, does everyone agree that it would falsify relativity?
It'd falsify all of modern physics.
No, just the relativistic application,
which is a part of modern physics. So yes, it would falsify relativity and the rest of the foundations of physics as well.
What's so funny
don't make me saying that because it makes your proposition
really
much more ridiculous, which it is.
Hold on. I have a question before I engage in the answer.
I can't just add people
how
to the
would you
stream
calculate?
Beasticles, are you Beasticles Foco? Put up your thumb. Okay.
Max, is that you? What's up, bro?
Yes. How would you know east to west? But I'm probably thinking in space, and you're probably thinking of east to west on Earth, right?
Yeah, it's over top of the Earth, and so like when the light, because like GPS is just using light, electromagnetic signals, right? And the way we get distances, we're like, okay, it took this long to get the light, so we know that light goes this fast. That means it traveled this far. But what the point is that the light goes faster in one direction, east to west, than it does in the opposite direction, which is impossible according to relativity. And he said that it would refute all of modern physics, but modern physics already admits that relativity is grossly incomplete best case scenario. And there's over 200 published replacements of modified Newtonian dynamics on NASA's own database. So to act like we know relativity is going to be here forever is super archaic and ignorant.
Well, but listen, Whitsitt says modern physics says this. Modern physics said it to him, so I guess that's why he believes it.
No, it's a fact that there's over 200 modified Newtonian dynamic papers published on NASA's own website, right?
Yeah, but
so if you talk to
Newtonian dynamics has problems.
Okay, yes, it has problems, just like relativity has problems. So it's proposed,
well, but it's not a replacement to relativity. What are you talking about? Modified Newtonian dynamics works within relativity. I don't understand what.
That's also not true. So there's different versions of modified Newtonian dynamics. Some of them have relativistic.
One to me.
Some of them have relativistic integration. Some of them do not. So that's just a fact. There's an electromagnetic modified Newtonian dynamics. It's called The Electromagnetic Nature of Gravity. It's written by Konstantin Meiss, who sat on the board of Nuclear Institute of Physics. And it's nothing to do with relativity.
None of them are accepting it as true. Even the people writing the paper are saying it's a potentially, but they haven't verified. None of them explain all the observations. Same thing with general relativity. We have to have placeholders, dark energy, dark matter.
Right. So do you agree when he's acting like we know relativity is true? That's disingenuous.
We know it's true locally.
Relativity is true.
It isn't true locally though, because we've now detected linear velocity with interferometers. It's even been patented. It's an experiment. Dude, listen, if we can use an interferometer to detect linear motion, that goes all the way back to Michelson-Morley, and that combats Einstein's explanation, which was that the reason the interferometer didn't detect the orbit of the Earth was because, unlike Newton's claim that it was going in an actual curved path with a force acting on it, it's going in a straight free fall. Right? That's why we can't detect it. Well, if we've proven that actually interferometry can detect linear motion, then that refutes Einstein's claim as to why we didn't detect the orbits.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, tell me how it doesn't.
Because we can detect linear motion a variety of ways. I can do it by throwing a baseball straight in a line. That's linear motion.
What a non sequitur.
Anything. What is a non sequitur?
It would seem like that physics would drop theory of relativity if we had a reason to. But Max has a question. He's been bugging everybody.
No, I mean, it was about the satellites, but then he went into the whole explanation, and I wanted to push him on something
we don't
about
need to go back.
what he said at the beginning of the explanation. So, I mean, it's fine.
I have explanations for satellites. I sort of dropped that. I
dropped all these papers, by the way, for anyone that wants them. And I know what's going to happen is that most people in here will never read them. They'll come back the next time and pretend that we're stupid. But if you actually wanted to inform yourself on what you're making fun of people for, then the papers are there. And I encourage you to actually research the topic.
You should try to publish one, but see what happens.
What a non sequitur.
Yeah, what is a non sequitur?
It doesn't sequentially follow the point that was just made.
Austin,
you guys should read those papers. Though,
Austin, I do want to talk about. I am doing a debate on the 12th against Caleb 5D, and so I do plan on reading your papers and looking up Caleb. I don't know if you guys know him. He's on Twitter as KCD Industry and Caleb 5D. So I'll be debating him 5 p.m.
X, bro.
Yes. Oh my goodness, he's going to the soft sit shit now, and
he's reckless on
shit.
X.
I like. I talked smack to him, but now he's going to debate me, so that's good. Anyways, I'm trying to do an experiment. I did want to ask about it, and maybe it's just totally stupid, but I'm buying a little vacuum chamber. It's a 2-gallon one, so it's not too little, right? And I bought a little pendulum things, and then I'm going to hold them up with a magnet in the chamber, pull a vacuum on it, and then tape it on a string in the middle somehow. And then pull the vacuum. And then I want to take aluminum foil and create a Faraday cage around the whole thing, put a camera inside of the container, and then I want to remove the magnet and let it drop and watch it to see if it moves.
Okay, check
me my longitude. If it shows me, if I can use it to calculate my longitude, would that be a good test? To show that
it doesn't calculate longitude. It calculates latitude based on the cosine of the latitude. Yeah, but sure, if you want to, but actually it doesn't show any distinguishing evidence between even and ether drift that correlates with sidereal rotation. But what is super interesting about that, and by the way, aluminum foil is just not a real Faraday cage. It's better than nothing.
How would I block? Is there anything you can use to block ether?
You're not going to like the answer. There's like the best Faraday cage in the world doesn't actually attain zero. But I want you to think about this. Have you ever heard of?
I've studied how to create shielding from EMP pulses for power plants and stuff like that. But anyways, go ahead.
If you could attain zero, you'd be a billionaire.
You can't attain zero.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, there's vacuum permittivity. But what I want you to think about, dude, is that have you ever heard of the Elias effect? It's relevant to what you're saying. Okay, the Elias effect with Maurice Elias, who also closely examined Dayton Miller's work, right, and confirmed that it shows a direct correlation with the equinox. The fringe shift of Michelson-Morley is the greatest on the equinoxes, greatest and least on the equinoxes, which is another falsification of the instrumental error claim and your entire model. But anyway, what he showed was that the pendulum, it actually drifts differently during eclipses, right? Well, and that obviously can't happen, right? If the pendulum is drifting because the Earth is spinning, then it's going to be the same always. It shouldn't be changing based
outside effects like gravity that might have, some sort of effect on that, something like that, because that's how physics works. A system acts a certain way unless it's interfering with another system.
Well, what I want to do is try to eliminate.
Oh my God! You people censor the. It's called cognitive dissonance, right? When you start to hear the conclusion of the point that goes against your worldview, you have to stop it.
What I want to do with my experiment is show that there's as close to a vacuum as we can pull with the devices I'm getting, and so there's no friction for the pendulum swing as much as possible, and I try to eliminate as much of the electrical current in the atmosphere that could be going through the device. So when am I left with ether?
Well, one of the major things you have to make sure you do is you don't impose any lateral bias when you actually allow the.
That's why I'm using the magnet. I'm trying to go as good as I can with the magnet, then pull the magnet off so it drops.
Pull the magnet off. What does that mean? I mean, it's going to create a lateral bias. You need to the burning the string is pretty good. burning the string is like the best. It still creates a lateral bias, but
well, it's through glass. It's through the plexiglass of the
you can't
container.
burn in a vacuum.
So it's not like I'm touching it with a magnet.
I don't know if you're asking me to help you or something. I'm down to work on a test like that with you, but I want it to actually make sense. Meaning, I want the test. Well, I want the test to actually, if it's successful, to give us something definitive. If you detect the drift correlative to latitude, that isn't definitive or exclusive.
There's two things I want to prove. I want to prove that there is something causing it to fall back down, and it's not going to be electrostatics.
Yes, it is. It's already been proven. No, we've already used shielding. We use gravimeters. We use gravimeters. We use gravimeters, which are vacuum sealed chambers, right? And we use interferometric gravimeters that showed that the fall rate changes at the same location at different times whenever there is changes in the surrounding electric field. For example, during pending thunderstorm activity, and they excluded mass and gravity as the cause of the variance. So what we've proven for sure is that objects fall at different rates when electrical fields are changing. The Earth's electric field changes. That's a fact.
Okay. So let's say with my experiment, if I do the test without the my aluminum foil cage. If I do the test without the cage, I do the test with the cage. Do you agree do you believe the period of the pendulum swing, the time it takes to make one full swing, should be different with the cage and without the cage?
Yeah, maybe depending on the surrounding activity, right? Like I personally think there is a drift. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like I think there is actually a drift from the sky. It's been proven with high altitude measurements, right? The interferometry correlates to altitude. So the test that Jared and I were going to do is we want to actually go to the equator and show that the pendulum doesn't precess at all there, which is what the globe predicts. And it's never been done ever. So I want to see the test right above the equator, at the equator, and below. And what we should see is it drifts one way above. It doesn't precess at all at the equator, and then it does the opposite way below it. And that's never been done. No one can show me one time that a pendulum doesn't precess at all at the equator, but yet everyone here believes it, which is weird. So that's a test that sounds better to me.
I think I've seen that, but I'm not with this. So I'm trying to prove my latitude and that electrostatics. So you should see a different with electrostatics for the period of the drop, because if the only thing that's causing the momentum of the swing of the pendulum is gravity, right? So that would determine the period of the time it takes for it to swing back and forth would be gravity. The way it's turning would be the ether in your view, let's say, right? That's fine. So there's ether that's moving, or it's the globe that's moving. So I would be demonstrating two things. So if there's a way to shield from the ether, I don't know if you answered that. I asked, but
the ether is going to be inside of everything. There's no way to get rid of ether.
So we'd have to so
it's like from your paradigm saying, can you get rid of quantum fields?
Because you're saying it's like quantum fields or quantum.
Well, quantum fields are just this
That's what I said.
Like intellectually, quantum fields are just intellectually inept mathematical reifications hijacking the ether. But
no, they're not. Do you know what a Fox space is?
No.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, quantum fields are just math. But this is the point that I think is important, right? Which is that no one here's ever seen the pendulum not precess the equator, but you guys all believe it. You guys are effectively in a religion. You don't even need actual evidence. That's what's weird. How's that not weird?
I don't know any.
Because I accept testimonies.
There's no testimony of that happening ever.
Wait, no, I accept testimonials of mundane things because I accept the whole paradigm of knowledge. I accept that the conclusions mathematically would be that case.
Yeah, okay.
But it could precess a little bit, like you talk about. If you get any lateral drift at all, it's going to precess. But then it should be random. The direction it precesses, if you're truly at the equator, should be random, right?
It should be zero. But what I want to say to you, dude, is the pendulum doesn't.
It'd only be zero if you get no lateral drift.
Okay, yeah, you're right. If no bias, yeah. But if the pendulum's not going to change the drop rate significantly because of electrostatics, it's like you guys don't even understand the argument, which is that the downward electric current, which is a fact, creates the downward bias. It's very nearly constant. So the fluctuation in that is not significant. So to overcome the weight of an object, you would have to introduce a significant amount of electrostatics and have a light object unless you introduce a ton of change and fluctuation in the field, because the actual buoyancy relationship is going to be way stronger than that very weak downward electric current. And I can show you papers that show you the equivalence of little g in Coulomb's law, and I can show you how to derive big G using an electromagnetic equation that fits right within the margin of error with the accurate value for vacuum permittivity. So the truth is everything is provably electric, and the fluctuation wouldn't be expected unless it's strong enough. So just to say, oh, it didn't change and it should change, that's not true. That's a straw man. It wouldn't change unless it was a significant introduction of the variable of electrostatics or
We
manipulation.
know
of
everything's not electric.
I have
Name one thing that's not electric.
If you had a perfect Faraday cage, would that
One
be able
thing
to
that's
prove
not
your
electric
experiment?
is a neutron. Neutrons are neutral. Neutrinos
Actually,
are also not electric.
Neutrons don't have a net charge, but they have elementary charge with their primary
don't.
components. Yes, they are.
Oh
they are
yeah, the quarks do, but quarks aren't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a neutron, which
what
is
makes
not
up a
an
neutron?
electrical object.
What makes up a neutron?
Doesn't matter. Neutrons
You're debating
are
with
not
a bad
electric. They're
actor,
still
Leo.
objects.
Wait. So neutrons are comprised of things with charge, but neutrons have no charge.
That's correct.
Yeah.
No,
Charge
neutrons have
means-
no net
It makes no
charge.
sense.
Neutral means it has no net charge. So there's a difference
So
in
it's
no
neutral.
charge at all and net charge. You guys understand
But
basic concepts
neutrons
and you're
don't
super
interact
arrogant.
Well,
via
first of all, if you're talking about forces, it's electromagnetic force, it's a strong and weak nuclear force, and gravity. So everything's not electrical.
No,
It's just not
gravity.
all
Gravity.
electrical.
You don't even know what gravity is. So I just
No,
now.
it
I just.
Curvature
I
and the
just.
geometry of space-time.
That's what you believe it is.
No,
I get
that's
it.
what
We
like
don't
that
have
is.
a quantum theory of gravity. That's fine. It doesn't
No,
matter.
you don't have
still-
any theory of gravity.
still
None
have
of them work.
electromagnetic-
What the fuck
Entire
is general
foundation
relativity?
of
Wrong.
science.
You can
What's
measure
how?
electromagnetics.
What's
You
that?
can
To try
measure.
to prove
Question.
your experiment, if you had a perfect
Question.
Faraday cage, would that effectively be able to prevent what we observe as gravity? If you had
First
a
of all,
perfect
there's
one.
there's
If-
no such thing.
I said if.
Okay.
Listen to what I said.
Well, it's
If
just
you had a
stupid.
perfect Faraday cage.
Okay.
It's called a
If I could,
hypothetical. It's a
if
new-
I could go throw a ball in space, would it float? Like I'd be like, dude, this is
So
the fact.
answer my
no,
question. If
okay.
you could, would it prove it?
Well, no, because even the objects themselves are intrinsically electrostatic. All molecular and intermolecular attractive forces are electrostatic. There's no such thing. You would have to create some type of a vacuum. If you want the answer, then listen to the answer. But
now you're saying
the
it would
truth
not.
is, you
The
don't
answer was
want
no.
the
You said no.
answer. You
You
just
said
want
no.
to try to
That's all I
set
needed.
me
No,
up,
you
but it's
just
never going to
gibbered.
work.
If a
When you
perfect
think you're
Faraday
setting
cage
me up, you're
won't
ooping
prevent
me.
the
So then you
current,
get triggered, and then
then-
you have to stop me from finishing the
If
point.
the perfect Faraday cage won't prevent the current, which is what's causing the downward
Question
force,
for Witsit.
then you're not. Then that is illogical. You're not making a logically consistent argument.
Is that why you had to interrupt my argument because it's so inconsistent?
That's exactly why I interrupted you with it.
Yeah, because you want to force me into a straw man. So I'm going to finish. All objects are intrinsically electrostatic because all
What's
molecular
the
and
equation of what are the equations
Oh
of motion
my
that describe
gosh.
how these
Well, we've heard the
electrostatic
argument.
forces
Witsit.
pull
Can we-
things to the earth?
can we
What's
mute
can you
Leo?
give me the equation?
I didn't say it pulls anything down. Nice
let
straw
us
man.
finish, Leo.
This is the funny. The truth is, you guys can't even understand it. That's the funniest part. It's been like 7 years.
so you don't
all
have-
molecular,
Well, I'm
inter-
trying
all,
to. That's
all
why I asked you
molecular,
for the
all
equations of
molecular,
motion.
all molecular, and intermolecular attractive forces are electrostatic in nature. Meaning that if you put it inside of a
It's
vacuum
not an
chamber,
answer
well,
to my question.
stop interrupting me.
I don't
I'm
care.
answering the other
Answer my
guy's question. I'm answering the
I'm
other
gonna-
guy's
Yeah,
question.
because you can't answer my question.
No,
You
it's
don't know-
because
you
you
don't have
think that
Leo.
you,
of motion.
because
Leo,
you're
I'm
an
gonna
internet
mute
tough
you to let
guy
him
that weighs
answer.
70
Mute
pounds
Leo,
and is super
please.
soft in person. I know you now, and now you're just a joke.
Answer the question, then I'm going to unmute Leo.
Okay. So like say you had a vacuum chamber, right? Like, well, even in your paradigm, I don't believe in atoms per se, but there's a few hydrogen atoms per cubic meter. So there's going to be an electrostatic transference between the object and the medium. So you're still going to have a relationship that's going to result in a buoyant force, right? You can never completely remove the vacuum permittivity, the electric field. Like you're saying, if you could, you can't because there's still space there. And the space is provably has the impedance of free space is 377 ohms. So there's no way to remove that. It's provably there at all times, which means you're going to have that slight bias in all scenarios, right? And it's very nearly constant. And yes, it ends up, the proof of it is that we can tangibly measure the downward electric current.
Can't you increase the resistance? So you say it's 330 ohms. If you pull a vacuum and you put if you pull a vacuum on it, you're going to increase the ohms. Like it's going to be nearly infinite. With a perfect vacuum, the resistance between you said 330 ohms, right? Between whatever distance you're talking about.
377.
377 ohms. Sorry.
That's called the impedance of free space, meaning when you get the best vacuum that you can, there's still an impedance there.
I'm an electrical engineer. I have some
okay,
concept.
then you know there's an ether and you deny it anyway. It's weird.
I don't know this.
Hey, does something
Let me ask a question. No. I was trying to ask a question and you're trying to change it. Okay. If you pull a vacuum, it increases the electrical resistance across the vacuum.
Not of the vacuum itself. That's what Witzit's trying to say. He's talking about the vacuum permittivity of free space.
Yeah.
So the electric and the magnetic field.
Current doesn't travel through a vacuum. Like
what?
That's my point. With
That's
if you
not
can prevent the current from flowing, it would stop gravity, right? You
Wait up. There's something called wireless power induction in a vacuum. Okay, that's a real life technology already. So
we use vacuums to extinguish power arcs.
We have wireless power induction in a vacuum, okay? And even in free space, there's always the magnetic permeability and electric permittivity. There's no way to avoid that. There's no way to escape that. It's just a fact. I mean,
if you can prevent the current from flowing, you would prevent the gravitational effect, right? You'd agree to that. So if we can just hypothesize, and so current isn't what's causing the gravitational effect.
The current is proof of the gravitational effect, right? And it also.
So what's causing the gravitational effect?
It is a cause, but the fundamental cause is going to be the permittivity of the background itself, right? And
but
that's
you said it's the cause.
That's
so if we prevented the current, it would no longer cause it.
But then I explained that you have something called weight, right? So the
What
weight
is that?
There you go. Weight. Okay. The equation is mg, right? Well, what is that? Well, in that context, mass is volume times density. That's all it is. So volume times density
G
times
is
the agreed upon average of g, which is downward acceleration. None of that's even in any way exclusive to your guys' understanding of gravity.
You are
it just
such
uses
a bad actor. You're completely avoiding the point.
What are you talking about? You just asked me what weight was. I start defining it, and I'm a bad actor.
Why are you calling him a bad actor? I don't get that.
I mean, you can prevent the current.
I could present the equation of motion for general relativity, but he can't present the equation of motion for whatever magic he thinks he's got going on.
But I can. I just explained. I can show the equivalence.
Equation of motion in the chat for me, please.
I don't need.
I can show the equivalence. I can show the equivalence of little g in Coulomb's law. I don't need
downward bias, and you prevent the current from being there. The downward bias would disappear.
They were wrapping
I'm saying that you can't prevent it from being there.
But if you could.
Sure, if you could. Okay, so this,
now that should be the goal of your life.
It's impossible. It's like me asking you, hey, let me ask you the same type of dumbass question. I'm going to ask you the same type of question. Hey, if you remove the mass of the Earth, would you remove gravity?
Well, no.
That's retarded, huh? That's a stupid retarded question, huh?
I want to do a topic cleanser.
Wow.
I want to. Okay, we're going to end the stream soon, but I want to bring this up. I don't know if you saw this, guys, but. Oh, I want to start another argument, but Grayson, I'm sure you guys know who he is. Critical Base Theory on YouTube. He went to Lake
Pontchartrain. It's Grayson here at Lake Pontchartrain, the longest bridge in the United States. Let's see if we can see some Earth curves, shall we? As you can see right there,
let's go look at the blueprints.
Curving downward with the Earth.
Don't look at the blueprint.
Yeah, they literally, it's plain survey data up to 100 square miles. What's funny is you got the globe. Why are the Globers so dishonest about Pontchartrain, where we know that the middle of it actually has a gigantic ramp? Why do you guys do that?
Does anybody know who Alan is?
Is there a giant ramp in the middle of Pontchartrain? Yes or no?
Yes, Alan's good to go.
Okay.
The answer is yes, right? Because I've actually been on the bridge multiple times. There's a giant ramp in the middle of it.
I have no room. I'm going to let you go down really quick, Issa. Well, I'm actually closing out the stream, but I'll let him come up to say. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Alan come
I'll give you
Toby.
Okay. I'll give you 2 minutes, Alan, and then everybody can say goodnight.
All right, Alan gets 2 unimpeded minutes.
2 unimpeded minutes. I'll put them right
Bury.
at the top.
What do you guys want him to
Yeah.
bury?
Here, I'll make it big. No, I don't know how to.
No, Alan,
Anyways,
you're
go ahead,
muted,
Alan.
brother.
Yeah,
Alan's a
you're
flat
muted.
earther.
You're muted, bud.
You're muted, but they were trying to say that there's no way that there's
There you
that the
go.
speed of light has to be constant, that relativity is their god, and et cetera,
No,
and
it's
that
just
GPS
correct.
does. And Leo said GPS doesn't account for the variance of light.
Relativity. All hail.
Well, it doesn't
Einstein,
account for
my
the
Lord
variance
and
of light. It
Savior.
accounts for the time dilation effects.
Let's give
because, you know,
Alan.
Now let Alan
GPS
respond to that
satellites
Let's give
comment.
Alan 2
14,500
minutes.
miles above sea level.
Question.
Okay.
Let Alan respond.
In what regard? Okay, so in what sea? Like, fuck, man. Okay, so
No
GPS
pressure.
is GPS is a time interval system based on a range measurement equation. So when you say it doesn't account for a variance in C, what are you talking about? Are you talking about clock corrections, or are you talking about the signal propagation to actually get
Oh,
a
I'm talking
location?
about C. C is the speed of light, which does not change.
All of it. Cool. Okay, so GPS is explicitly functions on the variance of C, right? So
No,
when
it
the atomic,
doesn't.
yes. So when the
No,
atomic
it
clock,
doesn't.
On an unimpeded 2 minutes, right? Isn't that what we're doing?
Yeah, but Leo
Yeah.
can't hear this. He's going to short out.
Okay.
oh yeah, it's all good.
Go ahead.
He was actually asking me questions. I was just responding.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But
He
now
wants
he's
to
going to
ask a question.
explain it. Now, Alan, don't ask him any more questions, bro.
That okay. So so for the satellites themselves, right? So GPS being a time interval system, they have to maintain a synchronized clocks, right? So how do they do that, right? So if they were to use Einstein's clock synchronization, where you have a moving clock that intersects with a stationary clock at that time, a signal is sent from the moving clock to another moving clock, right? With its time that it's with the time that it sends its signal, and a half speed reduction for the speed of light. So it assumes that the speed of light is going the same in both directions. So when they get their synchronization going, they're like, okay, cool, everything seems to be going, but it doesn't stay in sync for very long. So they're like, okay, so what's the problem here? So after further experimentation, they found that what they have to account for is the velocity of what's carrying the clock. So if it's a plane, car, doesn't matter, truck. They've done several experiments, one with the truck, one with the airplane, well, several in airplanes. But anyway, what they have to account for to keep the clocks in sync is the absolute velocity of the clock. So in the GPS ICD, the way that they have it worded is that the satellite is correcting for its absolute velocity with respect to the center of the ECI reference frame. So the ECI reference frame, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's just a mathematical coordinate system. It's not a real legitimate thing. So it's just a fancy way of saying that the craft is accounting for retardation with respect to the absolute velocity of the craft, right? So that's part one of keeping the time synchronization. So once they have their times synchronized, right, and they have everything all synced up with their corrections, right, and that's just getting in to the velocity correction for the craft, right? But let's look at the range measurement equation now and how they utilize the synchronization, right? So they use the rate of C, right, the induction rate of C, and they take the time in which the signal was sent and the time in which the signal was received. They multiply that by C. They take the difference from that and they get their distance, right? So that's how they're deriving the distance. So you're like, okay, cool. So if the speed of light is a constant, then in the ECI frame being synced to sidereal time with their atomic clocks, and then they have the ECEF reference frame which is also synced to sidereal time as well. So when they have a distance in the ECI reference frame that they take their first measurement from using the speed of light, and they transform it to the ECEF reference frame, that distance should be invariant because the speed of light doesn't change, right? So if you follow covariance, there should be an invariant transformation under distance right there. So they could take that distance, transform it to any coordinate system, any map, whatever they need to, and it'll be invariant, right? But what they found is that it varies, right? So there's a variance to it. So, and even worse than that, it's like, well, what's the variance? Is it going through air? Is there some refraction? Is it slowing it down? Like how bad is the variance? Well, it turns out that the accuracy of GPS, it's so accurate with those measurements because the velocity of light is proportional to the velocity, or there's a variance in the speed of light that's proportional to the velocity of the observer, right? Similar to how sound works in water, right? So they use the same range measurement equation system for sonar systems. And the only difference in the equation is instead of using C, they use A for the speed of water. I'm sorry, for the speed of sound in water. So the mechanism for this variance to give the proportional speed in that regard is that there's a medium in which which all motion is propagating or is moving through, and that's the medium. That's why it varies. You can find all the documents in GPS to back that up. They call it a Doppler frequency shift. but they obviously don't get into the covariance issue with the transformations. But how would you explain a Doppler shift proportional to the velocity of the observer without and also the distance, but without having the speed be the same, right? It's obviously It's obviously getting the distance with through the variance of c.
No, it's through changes in time dilation. Like everything you said is pretty much correct, and it wouldn't be if general relativity were false. So, yeah, the changes in time, and it actually is measured. So you're right on that there is a change that changes in time.
So first of all,
and that's because the speed of light is constant. Speed of light weren't constant. This relation between space and time, where sort of the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, and vice versa, wouldn't be a thing. Speed of light varied, we wouldn't have to deal with that problem. So the very fact that we have to make these corrections is because, well, relativity is true and the speed of light is constant. We measure these effects as time dilation.
With respect to what is the atomic clock retarding to?
Hold on. I want to give you, Alan. Okay, so go ahead and answer that question, Leo. Alan can respond to anything, and then I want to wrap up the show.
Yeah, so if Einstein's synchronization was correct and the speed of light was constant, there would be no further corrections necessary for an atomic clock. The fact that it corrects for its absolute velocity through space with respect to the center of the ECI reference frame is a direct violation of special relativity in and of itself, because you can't detect absolute velocity with respect to free falling around the Earth, right? In a free fall orbit. It should not be correcting for it. Should not the electromagnetic retardation going on inside that clock should not be proportional to its velocity, right? Because in Michelson-Morley,
electromagnetic retardation.
So the variance in C that's provided there.
Yeah, but you haven't shown that there's a variance in C. You've shown that there's a variance in
They make
time.
velocity
Yes.
corrections to it proportional to the velocity of the craft. That's not a time dilation correction, my dude.
Oh, yeah, it is.
No.
Yeah. So when you move things, their clocks tick differently. So, yeah. So that's what we're measuring.
Sounds like we come to the conclusion there.
No, he doesn't understand it. Leo doesn't understand it yet.
That's fine.
I understand what he's saying. He's just wrong on the variance.
I
The
wish
variance
you'd come
isn't in
on
the speed of light, it's
earlier.
in time.
Hold
Leo,
on.
please read the paper I dropped in the chat.
I am the host.
I don't need to read papers when they don't overturn physics.
Okay, don't read the paper then.
Yeah, I won't, because they don't overturn physics. They're not important. They don't mean anything.
Leo, thank you for showing.
Thanks for having me, Matters. Now, by the way, read those papers, please.
I will not leave the stream. I'll kick you all out so I can copy the papers. So, anyways, but thank you. I will read them. Thank you, Witsit. Appreciate you. And William, this is one of the first times. I think this is the second time we've had both guests for the debate coming on. I really appreciate that both of you came on. I really did enjoy that debate. I still think William won, and I think that's one of the few times that Witsit's lost a debate, if that means anything.
Yeah,
Witsit.
that's true. It's sad.
You
It's
cannot
true.
be serious.
Witsit,
Yes.
you are a great debater.
Yes,
it's
you
okay.
are.
Mighty competitive.
I think you weren't prepared
Thanks. I
for
mean,
his
strongly disagree that you won, but it's all good.
That's fine. The poll says otherwise.
Okay, so every time I win the poll, I win then, right?
Man
No, I'm just fucking with you.
No, I mean,
Witsit. I'm biased, of course, right? Because
yes.
I'm
Me
biased.
too. But I don't shy away. Like the last debate I saw you win, it was like you crushed the other guy. There was no, I hated myself, but it's like, dude, I can't say anything else other than Witsit won this one. Yeah, it's.
I would say the only thing that you guys can, basically what you're really saying is you guys think I lost a point, which was the Southern Star Trails, right? Like that's what you're actually saying. He didn't even push back against any other points. You guys are saying you think I lost that point when you.
It was style. It was debate style.
Okay, well,
53% of the people watched
just
it.
let me say no, dude. 53% of the people there would say I lose every time, no matter what. But what I want to say real fast, the point was that the only thing you kind of did address towards the end was that vertical electric field thing. What you said was totally irrelevant, saying that there were planes. Like, no, if you have you would have concentric equipotential surfaces coming out from a sphere due to radial distribution of charge. You cannot have uniformity of an electric field. The uniform vertical electric field on the Earth is a falsification of the claimed geometry. There is no rebuttal to
Begging
that.
the question, there is no perfectly uniform field that you claim.
Oh no, it's just that it's a
Debate's
generally
over.
uniform electric field. The fact there's fluctuation in it is not even relevant to the uniform distribution.
Okay, so it's not uniform.
It's a uniform distribution, though. It's not a radial distribution. Do you understand the difference?
But it's not
Good night,
perfectly
guys.
All right.
Good night.
You don't understand
Okay.
it.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
man.
much for
Thanks for having
coming.
me. I appreciate it.
Hey, we do these out. If you guys want to come on for the next Flat Earth one or any other debate topic that we do on the channel on Sundays, what's it? We're looking for like guest peepers to come on our Sunday show. Maybe you can come on one of them where we just watch cringy shorts and respond to them. It's just a good time. No debate, no friggin' like a little bit back and forth of colors, but it won't just be about Flat Earth stuff. You're more than welcome to come on. Any of you are, Toby, Dr. J. Dr. J's here all the time. Maybe we can have a theology debate sometime. He's a theologian, Christian, pastor. Maybe we can have those discussions if he wants to come. And same thing with Leo. He does Islam debates, and Max is going to do a show on mythology and stuff. And it's good having all of you, Toby and Leo, and everybody else that's left
Say
so
I do Islam debates.
I think
I
think he meant me. Yeah.
I can't
he said my
speak.
name.
I can't speak, Leo. Leave me alone. But anyways, if everybody watching this could like, share, and subscribe, and let people know about what we're doing here. The channel's growing really quick. I'm going to have a debate on Modern Day Debate on the 12th with at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it'll be an early debate with Caleb 5D. Go check him out on Twitter and see what he's about. Let's see what else. On Sunday, tomorrow, we're going to have our Sunday Shorts show where we watch some shorts. Justin runs that show. It's pretty fun. Hang out. I think the guest will be Mark Reed. So if you guys want to talk to Mark Reed tomorrow, he does lots of Flat Earth debates. Bring the Flat Earthers tomorrow anyways.
I watched him to prepare.
Yeah, there you go. But with that, I want to end the stream. Thank you all for coming. I won't close it out right away, but I'm going to end the stream. Thanks, guys.